peace on earth, and let it begin with me. There will be peace on earth when we all speak up. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. Let peace begin with me in this moment right now. So let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. There will be peace on earth when we all speak up. So let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, oh, the peace that we need, oh, the peace meant to be, oh, the peace on earth, oh, the peace on earth.
Hi, everyone. I am really devastated that it's even come this far and that we are having to gather at all today. But I'm really grateful that you all are here with us and standing in solidarity with Jeffrey and everybody who loves him and everybody who's fought for him. Before we get started, I just wanted to make sure folks knew that this is a safe space for people that oppose the death penalty. If that's not you, you are welcome to leave or we will kick you out. This is your warning. And those of us that are associated with DPA are the only people that will be speaking on behalf of the organization. Everybody else will be speaking on behalf of themselves. And it's probably going to be a pretty busy program. There's a lot that's been happening with this case in the last couple of days. So before we jump into all the details and what's going on at the moment, let us ground by remembering the victims in this case, because we wouldn't be here today if it was not for them. So.
Shalom Aleichem, peace unto you. Cantor Michael Zusman here with the thousands of members of L'chaim, Jews Against the Death Penalty, L'chaim, to life, a project of death penalty action. If you're watching this video, it means that yet another state-sponsored murder is about to take place in the United States of America. This time again, by gassing a human being to death. We always remember the victims of these state-sponsored murders, and the victims of the individual murders that led to them. We turn our attention now to the victims in this case. We remember Jimmy Hodges Ellis Sr., who went by Orion, born February 26, 1945, and Elaine Terrell Thompson, born January 14, 1954. They were both murdered on December 12, 1998. Jimmy was 54 and Elaine was 44. Some words for Elaine from her sister, Holly. It seems that it's been forever that you were taken from me, when only it has been 4 years that I can remember saying, "This can't be." There are so many events that you have missed, but the main one at the top of our list was when your tea baby made such a beautiful bride. And as you would know, I was there by her side. We know you were there with us just as you are today, but it's still not fair that you were taken away. Elaine, I love and miss you more every day. Oh, how I wish you were here to share all the things that have come our way. But I know that will never be. So from the day you were taken until forever, you will always be loved by me. Forever loving and missing you, your sister Holly. And elsewhere on Elaine's birthday on January 14th, she wrote this brief note. Now is the time when I would be calling to wish you a very happy birthday, but under different circumstances that are beyond my control. I can only say it through my silent conversations with you. I will never forget you or the days we shared the same age for a short time. Happy birthday, Elaine. Love, your sister, Holly. And now a few words about Jimmy Hodges Orion. Born in Pascagoula, Mississippi, Jimmy Hodges Ellis Sr., known as Orion, was an Elvis Presley impersonator, internationally known for his singing ability and dynamic personal appearances. Backed by the Jordanaires singers, he would wear a mask and was professionally known as Orion. Like Elvis, he recorded for Sun Records with cover hits such as That's All Right Mama and Blue Moon of Kentucky. He also sang gospel, country, rock, and recorded 11 albums. In the 70s to 80s, he appeared on shows with the Oak Ridge Boys, Jerry Lee Lewis, Reba McEntire, Ricky Staggs, Leo Greenwood, Ronnie Millsap, and Dionne Warwick. Ellis was killed as he was standing before the display counter, along with Elaine Terrell Thompson, in his pawn and package store. We remember them now. I'll offer this prayer from my tradition and ask that you turn your thoughts and, if applicable, your prayers to them and their spirits. El malei rachamim shochen b'amdomim hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר רק המזהירים את נשמות Jimmy Hodges, Orion Ellis Sr. ואת Elaine Terrell Thompson שהלכו לעולמם בגן עדן מנוחתם. אנא ברחמים אסתירם בסתר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתם אדוני הוא נחלתם ינוח בשלום על משכבם זיכרונם livracha, may their beloved memories be everlasting blessings, and their abiding neshamas, spirits, be loving guides to us all. May their loved ones be comforted among all the mourners of the world. May no more blood be spilled in their sacred names. And may all the killings end. Amen.
Thank you, Cantor Zeusman. I'm actually going to bring up Esther Brown to start. Esther, I'm going to send you an invite to start your video and unmute yourself.
Now what's happened?
There you go. I just needed to spotlight you. I know that J-Love is somebody that is really near and dear to your heart, so I just wanted to start off giving you an opportunity to talk about him and all that he is to you and to Project Hope and to everybody around him.
Thank you. And as some of you will know, we are a death row organization. So I'm talking about my family, okay? I'm not talking a name or anything like that. It's my family. And I thought I would share what some of them wrote, and also what J-Love, we call him J-Love, I know it's called Jeffery Lee. And it's interesting what he texted me. This particular one, we text a lot, but it says, "Good morning, E. How are you doing this morning? I'm doing well. Just got back from the warden's office. They set the date for June 11th. I appreciate all you're all doing. The fight is not over. Fear not. God is not finished. Love you always. Talk with you soon. J-Love." And now I would like to read what some of the men say about him. And this one is from our current chairman, Bart. "One thing that for sure needs to be said is God is not finished. That speaks to the faith of my brother and friend, Jeffery Lee. We have been friends from the jump. He said it one day when I just started going to church, that there was just something that clicked between us. Now, all these years later, I understand it's the Holy Spirit working in both of us that causes us to recognize each other in that special way. His faith is admirable, trusting that God will do far beyond what one can think or seek or ask. So in this moment, I'm letting my faith out of the box as well for J-Love and all of us here, for more than clemency, more than abolition. What that looks like, only God can say." And then from some of the other brothers, "God is not done yet, my brother. God is in control. You're in my prayers as always, my dear and beloved brother, Craig Newton." And then Jeffrey has always been the guy that stops by your cell to see how you're doing and to say, "God bless you," when you really need it. Chris Henderson. "Faith powers light. Light blankets darkness. Jackson, keep shining light in the dark places. You are the brightest of them all. In you, grace lives. God will provide mercy. In the gap we are holding on, shining light for those that can't see their way through dark times. To God be the glory." Marcus Williams. Actually, I was just on the phone with him. And then about a year ago, they were working on clemency for J-Love, and they came to my little house to film on whatever I was going to say. And so I asked Jeff Weber, who was a former chair of Project Hope, to say something. And he wrote, "J-Love, Jeffery Lee, came to death row while I was vice chairman of Hope. He is a tall and formidable sized person who turned out to be a gentle giant. He's 6'3", soft spoken and eager to do something positive with his time here. A lot of people give up once they are here at the end of the line in prison parlance. He came in the right way, meaning he had his eyes and ears wide open and his mouth closed. He wanted to get the lay of the land instead of trying to establish how tough a convict he was. This impressed me as well as others who had been here a long time already, because everyone who comes here is afraid to one degree or another. It is simply the fear of the unknown and has nothing to do with courage or cowardice. But you don't show weakness in prison. Jailer was gentle and approachable from the beginning, and that takes strength. He has never once looked back. He has become a true leader among men and is universally liked, loved by the men of the row. I've had the privilege to see him grow and bloom into a leader, advisor, example, and brother, not to mention barber and huge Yankees fan. And many others are better human beings because of J-Love, and just watching him just be who he is. It is a privilege to speak about him. Thank you. And I would just want to add, when I read that to J-Love, he broke down. He said, he broke down. Couldn't believe it. And that is who J-Love is. And that is who they're trying to kill. And I thought he believed in forgiveness and rehabilitation. We are in the Bible Belt. We are all, I just had a call just before I got on. Well, several calls from them because I'm in touch with them every day. We are all standing in faith, being optimistic, because that is what J-Love wants us to be. And so, as I told some of them, if you say you love J-Love, well, then you have to be hopeful and know that God is not finished. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Esther. That was really beautiful. Jeff has his camera on, so I'm going to go to Jeff next, of the Execution Intervention Project. I know you had some thoughts to share about today and the significance regarding nitrogen, so take it away.
Man, there's a lot to talk about. And my suspicion is that everybody needs to go ahead and get their pillows and their sleeping bags because it's feeling like it's going to be a late night. I think that we're in. Allie, 1 second, come back to me. I have to quiet the kids down. I can't concentrate.
Okay, hold on. And I have a cat here that's sneezing. We're a mess today. Why don't we go to Sarah D. Armand and are you good, Jeff?
I'm good. I had
Okay,
to.
we'll go back to you, Sarah.
Don't worry. I just let it rip. I got that dad voice going. It's interesting that 2.5 years ago, when I agreed to accompany Kenny Smith to his execution, never in a million years would I have thought that there would be 8 of these nitrogen executions. I mean, it was so horrific. I've described it so many times that I almost feel like I have it memorized. But the straining against the gurney, the heaving, the face slapping on the inside of the mask, the cries for help. Torture is an understatement. And I remember walking out of that chamber, and I think I even said this to Esther at the time, that I can't imagine them doing this again. Like, surely this is going to be enough for them to understand that they can't, shouldn't, that it would be, surely this was horrific enough, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And Esther wisely told me, she probably doesn't even remember this, but she wisely told me, do not underestimate the evil of the government here in the state of Alabama. And like always, Esther was right. And so we've seen 7 nitrogen executions in Alabama. We've seen 1 in Louisiana, Jesse Hoffman. And I've been in 2 of them, so 25% of them. And I don't find myself really at rarely at a loss for words, as many of y'all know, but it's been a crazy last couple of days. I mean, I think I've done a couple dozen interviews about nitrogen and just describing it over and over again. And I guess I still have this hope that I did then, that if I tell enough people, if we share enough about what this is like, then surely somebody is going to say, "Hey, we don't want to keep doing this. Like, this is really disturbing. This is beneath human beings to do this, and we're not going to do it again." Um, I was there with our dear friend Aunt, who Esther and I were both very close to, but our dear friend Aunt, who was executed in October, the last nitrogen execution. 18 minutes of conscious struggling and suffering, trying to breathe. And I realize I can be a little looser with my friends here, but it's so traumatic to keep describing them over and over and over again, and to keep seeing them and thinking about it and engaging with it. But you have to. You have to. And I think the difficulty, I think in the last couple of days, as far as J Love is concerned, obviously we have a lot of mutual friends on the row, and you know it's been difficult because I feel like my job has been to talk about nitrogen. And certainly J Love is a part of that. But I felt like my primary responsibility is to say what I saw, to speak about the book that I've written on nitrogen and all of these actions that we've done on nitrogen. Um, but I think that sometimes humanity gets lost in talk about methods, but the opposite is also true. Sometimes when we talk about these cases, we miss the bigger conversation about how we can actually um, stop these executions. Um, if we get a positive ruling from the Supreme Court, I don't think we're going to get any sort of extremely positive rulings, but if we get a positive ruling, um, we are we are talking about dozens and dozens and dozens of people that will not be suffocated to death. And so tonight, of course, my mind and heart is close to J Love, but my mind and heart is also very much aware that through this case tonight, through J Love, um, we are very close to there not being another nitrogen execution in Alabama anytime soon. And perhaps it leads us to this place of maybe forever. And for somebody who's seen these things and who sort of carries them in my soul, in my dreams, in my nightmares. I mean, that seems to be just an unbelievably momentous possibility. I'll also say that um, I think if we get a positive ruling tonight, I can kick this around with Rob when he gets on. But I do think this will be the biggest, I think one of the biggest decisions that the Supreme Court has handed down on the death penalty in a generation. I think this is I just want everyone to understand this is a very, very big moment. Supreme Court has never ruled any method to be unconstitutional. Basically, the Supreme Court has let states kill however they want to kill. And I think that I'm incredibly proud of everybody here. I'm incredibly proud of Esther from her little trailer in the middle of the woods, way off in the woods there in Alabama. I mean, we all have done so much work to tell the truth about this method. And over again, those state officials have come out of that chamber and have said, no, 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 no. It was peaceful. It was humane. What y'all saw, you didn't really see, y'all are just alarmist and, all of these types of things. But I'm thankful that I've had all of you to stand with over this last 2.5 years to really sort of bolster this, and Esther and Hallie and everybody. We're not crazy. We saw what we saw. We've heard the accounts. We know what we know. And I think it is beyond ironic that tonight President Trump is leading a tele-rally for Barry Moore, who is the Republican nominee for the United States Senate in Alabama tonight. And on one hand, it reminds me, of course, of all of the fake news. We always have to deal with being told that what we say and what we think and what we see is fake news. But I'm going to give you another really beautiful thing to think about. And we talked about this on the Vigil. Barry Moore is the Republican nominee for the United States Senate. And the reason that's a big deal, I'm not going to be voting for him, don't like him, on and on and on. But the point that I'm trying to make is Steve Marshall, the Attorney General of Alabama, thought that nitrogen was going to be the winning issue. He thought that this was going to be the issue that took him to the United States Senate, that got him the nomination. And he finished third in the Republican primary. I think that says a lot about, even in Alabama, people are not interested in suffocating people to death. They're not interested in all of these gory stories. They're not interested in all of the lunacy of all of this. And so obviously none of us want these executions. That's why we're here. But at the same time, I think this is a moment where we can really take a tremendous step forward. And I hope that's what happens tonight. But whatever happens, I do know that we are going to continue fighting. And, I said it yesterday on NBC. I'm working not just for an end to, to save the life of Jeffery Lee. Obviously, would be wonderful. It would be great. But I'm really working towards a time when the people of this nation do not have to be in danger of their government suffocating them to death.
Amen.
Oh, Abe just joined us real quick before Abe comes in. I just wanted to say that even if today does not go right, this is still a huge feat that we've accomplished in the realm of execution methods. It has now been ruled unconstitutional 4 times by 2 different federal courts. That's significant. So I just wanted to say that real quick. But Abe, let's go to you.
Yeah, Abe, before you go, I was gonna just to speak to that also very quickly. There's no doubt, Hallie. There has been no method that has been challenged this successfully, this quickly. And I think that says a lot about death penalty action. It says a lot about EIP. It says a lot about Project Hope, all Rehumanize International, all of these different organizations that are consistently coming together to simply tell the truth. The truth is the greatest weapon that we have, and that's why we're even talking about this.
Oh, indeed. And it also says a lot about the lawyers that are pushing this agenda legally and finding some measure of success after repeated attempts to get the courts to look at this issue and to decry it as unconstitutional. And I think that's been the problem, is we're not having the judges witness these executions. Let me just halt for a moment and say, welcome everybody, glad you're all here. I am here outside the governor's mansion in Montgomery, Alabama. A bunch of people are here holding signs and standing vigil in what was a brief rain shower. Hopefully it's over, but we're all a little bit wet now. And we're here making noise. We've got the bell out here, and we're waiting, as we are, on a ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court. Or maybe they won't rule. Maybe they'll just decline to say anything, which means they won't have to worry about making a determination on this in a way. But they'll let it stand. That would be a great thing. Also, and I'm sure you've already said this also, but many of the people that are over here across the street, and I'll see who's available to speak with us in a few minutes. But many of them are people that have been working on Jeffery Lee's case from the merits of his case. It's not about the punishment. It's about the fact that 7 out of 12 jurors voted for life, for not executing Jeffery Lee. And that's got to matter for something. And it should matter especially for the governor that's in this building behind us. Maybe she's home, maybe she's somewhere else. But she signed legislation to prohibit jury override, but didn't do anything about the people already on death row because of jury override. So we're here outside the prison, and we're going to be here until we get some understanding of what's happening. Hopefully, we'll all get to go home tonight without an execution. So I see that Rob is here with lots to say as well, and thanks, Jeff, for all you had to say, and thanks everybody there that's been there. And is Stephanie still here? I want to especially greet Stephanie Campos and ask her and thank her for just taking the lead all the time, not just now, but regularly on your own platform to tell people, here's how it is with the death penalty, and invite them to action. We're really grateful. So Stephanie, please, if you're here, put your webpage in the chat and let people know. And I saw, Scott, your message, your question about when the warrant expires. I believe it's at 6 a.m. this Central Time. So there we have it. Rob Dunham is ready to offer his thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Abe. There's been some remarkable lawyering in this case, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that. The lawyers in Alabama have been gathering data about execution by nitrogen suffocation from the very beginning. It's not just the data from the American Veterinary Medical Association that has led almost all the states in the United States to say that this method is unacceptable for putting pets to death and even for killing mice because it's inhumane. But they also have marshaled the evidence from eyewitnesses to the executions, from the autopsies that have been done, and they presented a 3-day, might have been a 4-day evidentiary hearing, so that we had a full case litigated before a federal district court. What's happened since then is extraordinary. It is the first time in recent times that there has been any federal district court finding that a method of execution is unconstitutional. It's also the first time since the United States Supreme Court invented new hurdles that death row prisoners had to leap through in order to even get their claims of unconstitutionality heard. It's the first time that that's ever happened in any case. As you might remember, the United States Supreme Court has invented a two-step process here that never existed before in the history of the U.S. Constitution. And that two-step process is that a prisoner has got to show that the method of execution presents super added pain and suffering in addition to that which is necessary to carry out an execution. Executions aren't supposed to be painless. This is supposed to be worse than that. And they only get to do that if they have first proposed an alternative mechanism for getting themselves killed. And that alternative method has to be something that's reasonably available to the state, and the state has to have failed to take advantage of that opportunity. So this isn't about stopping the execution from happening in the long term. It's about whether the execution is going to go forward by this method or by another method. Having said that, it's the first time that's ever happened. And the evidence and the ruling appears to be contradictory to a ruling by the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit in a Louisiana case. In the Louisiana case, the Fifth Circuit said that execution by firing squad would be more painful than execution by nitrogen gas. And therefore, the nitrogen option was not unconstitutional. Here, the same issue was before the court, and the court decided it the other way. Well, how is that possible? And that's the first thing that's really interesting and important about this case. I'm sorry that you're going to get almost an entire law school class here. But what's important is that cases get decided based on the facts in front of them and based on rules of appellate judging that grant deference to the facts as found by a federal district court, the trial court. And the 11th Circuit said that the Louisiana case didn't have a full hearing. It was based on preliminary testimony. And the district court judge there, based on those facts, decided something different. But we are bound by the findings of the judge in our case, based on the evidence presented in our case, and we find that there was not clear error in what the judge found, so we are bound to apply the law to the facts that that court found. Now, initially, the district court said that this method was going to be painful, that it was going to produce, air hunger is the term that they used, but essentially it's suffocation and torture that has both a psychological and physiological effect that goes well beyond that necessary to carry out an execution. But the district court said that didn't meet the constitutional standard. The 11th Circuit said, well, I'm accepting the facts that you found, and it does meet the constitutional standard. So then the court sent it back for the district court to decide the other issue, which was, is this an alternative that was available to Alabama? And the trial court very quickly issued its ruling on that, having already taken evidence on that. And it said that Alabama had had a reasonable opportunity to adopt firing squad as a method of execution, and it failed to do so. So this is reasonably available. The question of availability is not dependent upon what a state says is authorized as a method of execution in that state. If that were the case, states could always avoid a constitutional issue by making only the execution method they want to use available. So now that comes back up to the circuit. The circuit says, yes, this is a constitutional violation. And for the first time ever, you have a declaration under the new Supreme Court standard that a method of execution is no good. Okay, that's part one. What happens next is, what does Alabama do? And there's a very technical procedural hurdle here that could make the difference between whether the Supreme Court addresses the issue today or doesn't. Alabama could have appealed the ruling. appealed the ruling that this was unconstitutional. That's not what they did. What Alabama did was seek to have the permanent injunction that the district court entered, have that permanent injunction stayed, that is put on hold, or vacated, which is getting rid of it. Now, it's disingenuous to try to stay a permanent injunction in a circumstance like this. If you stay it, what happens is the execution goes forward and you've killed the defendant and you've rendered the issue moot. So that's completely disingenuous. So the real issue is whether it is going to be vacated. And here is where the posture of the case becomes so critical. Every other time that the United States Supreme Court has vacated a stay of execution or has lifted an injunction, it's been at the preliminary stage. That is, the stay was granted so that future litigation could take place, or the injunction was granted because the defendants had proven a reasonable likelihood of success on the merits, but more evidence needed to be taken. And so there was never a final decision. Here, there was a final decision. The district court ruled in the defendant's favor after a complete hearing. It is a permanent injunction. It is not a temporary injunction. That means that there's only one way that you are supposed to be able to challenge that, and that's through an appeal, not through vacating an injunction. And if that's the case, and the Supreme Court sees that and applies the law as has routinely been done in all other cases, then there will not be a stay of the injunction. There will not be a vacation of well, they call it vacatur. The injunction will be left in place and the execution will not go forward. Now, here's the problem. The United States Supreme Court. If the case comes up in an emergency posture, which is what we're seeing today, it will be decided initially on the shadow docket. And that is, it will be decided without full briefing and without full argument. And generally, when it's decided through the shadow docket, it's also decided without an explanation. It is entirely possible with a shadow docket decision that there could be a ruling that is not appealed, that a method of execution is unconstitutional, and yet the execution is allowed to go forward. And that's the kind of thing that we've seen during the federal execution spree. That's the kind of thing that undermines confidence in the judicial process. We will see tonight what the Supreme Court does. There was a very important and very informative brief that was filed by Steve Vladeck, who is one of the preeminent scholars on Supreme Court practice, who made the point very, very clearly that there is a difference between a permanent injunction and a preliminary injunction. And he says, based on decades of Supreme Court practice, that that distinction is dispositive. In other words, because it's a permanent injunction, the United States Supreme Court does not have jurisdiction to lift the injunction. We'll see if they follow that. There's a second brilliant friend of the court brief that was filed by the American Thoracic Society. And that is a society that represents more than 30,000 medical professionals, pulmonary experts, and so forth, emergency room physicians, and so forth. And they filed their brief also in support of Jeffery Lee. And they say, we don't take a position on whether there should or should not be a death penalty. We don't take a position on what the ultimate resolution of this case should be. We're taking a position on what the facts are from a medical perspective, and we're telling you that what Alabama says the facts are is not what the facts are. And they, piece by piece, evidence by evidence, dismantle the argument that Alabama makes about nitrogen suffocation being a peaceful way of putting a prisoner to sleep. So I've read both of these briefs. They are extraordinary. And the litigation by Jeffery Lee's defense team has been extraordinary. It is some of the highest quality litigation that I have seen. in any method of execution case. And now it'll be up to the Supreme Court to tell us whether they are a political institution that is pursuing a political agenda, or whether they are a judicial institution that is there to preserve the rule of law. They could refuse to vacate the injunction, and Jeffery Lee could still ultimately be executed by nitrogen suffocation. That could happen, and that could happen through the normal course of appeals. But that would, at a minimum, if it followed that route, suggest that the court is at least saying there's a legitimate legal process to handle this case. That's
Rob,
that's a long speech.
I have a question.
What's going on?
I could tell from the way you were moving your head that you were wrapping up. I'm telling you, I'm an expert on Rob Dunham these days. But so I was reading the reply
Jeff,
from the
let me
state.
interrupt you for a second, Jeff. We got a word from the journalists in the prison. They've turned the van around after driving towards the prison. Lee Hedgepeth has reported that they've turned the van around. We don't know what that means, but they are not currently setting up to do the execution right now. So that's what it looks like.
I just shared a screenshot in the chat a couple of minutes ago from Lee Hedgepeth that it looked like they were going through the process, putting all the journalists in the van and such. So that's hopeful news to hear. Thanks, Abe.
Yeah, and Ali, if you want to just give me the screen again, just for a moment, I'll share again just the space that we're in outside the governor's mansion, and there's protests also happening, I think, in several other cities around Alabama. But many of the people that are here are either from legal teams or from the ACLU of Alabama, and we're all out here outside the governor's mansion in Montgomery. Back to you.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I just checked the Supreme Court docket, and there is no ruling on the Supreme Court docket. What generally happens in these cases, as a matter of procedure, is the Supreme Court calls the prison or calls the governor, whoever the designated official is, to find out whether the state intends to go forward with an execution. Here, there is presumptively no warrant because the injunction is in place. And so what the court would have told Alabama is that either we have a decision and it's not in your favor, or we're not close to having a decision. And that means, from our perspective, check the docket. The docket has nothing on it. So Alabama is waiting for the Supreme Court to decide, but they might have an inside track on what the court intends to do.
Okay, question. So after reading Alabama's response, one of the things that sort of stood out to me was this argument that they made that that district courts could stop every execution if this is allowed to, if the Supreme Court doesn't step in and this is allowed to proceed as it is proceeding, that the decision would stop at the district court. That's the complaint they're trying to make. I'm just curious what you have to say about that.
Well, they're complaining about too much justice. The fact of the matter is that if the method of execution is unconstitutional, the decision will stop executions through this unconstitutional method. They may not like that outcome, but you cannot complain. Well, they can complain, but they don't have a legitimate basis to complain about unconstitutional executions being precluded. That's what the Constitution is there for, to stop unconstitutional executions from happening.
So if a district court puts a permanent injunction on an execution, does that mean that that permanent injunction is not appealable? Which is what
No.
Which is what it seems like the state is trying to say. This creates a disadvantage for them.
That is what they're trying to say, and that's wrong.
Okay.
Okay. The first part.
I'm not defending them. I'm just
no.
asking
I
the
understand.
question.
I understand.
I'm just curious. I've read it and I'd never heard that before, and I was just when I read it, I thought I'm gonna ask Rob about that tonight.
Now, there is a way to appeal it. It's just not through this kind of emergency procedure. Um, and having said that, everything we say about the normal course of events could change tonight because this United States Supreme Court has not been reluctant to disregard decades and even centuries of precedent.
Mhm.
But assuming that things go according to the normal course, what would happen is that you have a permanent injunction, which is a final order, a final ruling on a case, and it's then appealable just like every other final judgment is appealable.
Mhm.
So they could take it up to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, and the 11th Circuit would rule. If the state of Alabama was unhappy with the ruling from the 11th Circuit, then there's a mechanism for them to try to appeal that too. It is called certiorari,
Mhm.
which is just a Latin word for the United States Supreme Court telling a lower court, we want to review this case.
Mhm.
Um, if that happens, what you do is you file a brief, you ask for a grant of certiorari. The other side gets to respond to that. The United States Supreme Court then decides whether it's going to hear the case. If it decides it's going to hear the case, it schedules more briefing on the merits of the issue, not briefing on why it should hear the case.
Mhm.
And again, both sides get to brief that.
Mhm.
And there's a reply brief to that. And then the United States Supreme Court will schedule oral argument, and both sides will get to argue it before the court. Alabama doesn't like that because that will take at least a year, and it could take even longer. Alabama wants to be able to execute people and execute them now using this method. Now, in 2008, when the United States Supreme Court granted certiorari to review midazolam executions, executions by lethal injection, what happened was states that used that method put their executions on hold until they got a ruling from the United States Supreme Court. In 1972, when the United States Supreme Court declared the death penalty unconstitutional, until 1976, when the Supreme Court said it wasn't per se unconstitutional, we didn't have executions. Why? Because it was unclear whether they would be constitutional.
Mhm.
That's the same kind of issue here, except it's whether this one particular type of practice would be unconstitutional. The other thing that we need to understand is this is not a finding that lethal gas suffocation executions are unconstitutional per se. It's a finding that they're unconstitutional as applied in this case.
Right.
But the as applied is uh, there is already this finding of fact that gas suffocation is torturous, and that will survive. And there is a doctrine called res judicata and a doctrine called collateral estoppel, and they are Latin and they are meaningless to normal people. But what it means is that when you have had an opportunity to litigate a set of facts and it has been decided against you, that decision sticks in future cases. So, what Alabama is afraid of is that every other prisoner who says, you know, I'm opting for lethal gas, but I'm challenging it and I'm offering firing squad as an alternative, that they're going to win. Okay. So they see this thing being repeated over and over and over and over again.
I'm going to kick it back to Allie really quick, but I was also going to say that I do think if we have the time, it would be interesting to sort of get into a little bit more of how nitrogen came about in the first place and how we got here, because this has not been going on in comparison to all of these other methods. This has not been going on that long. Allie?
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, and I don't even know if you have an answer for this, Rob. I'm not sure if you saw the comment from Scott about the Alabama AG purportedly traveled to DC today to somehow press his case in person. I don't know where that information came from. I mean, if it's real, that's insane. But I just wanted to check with you.
Well, hopefully it's not true. And if it is true, from a legal perspective, it is really, really dumb. And the reason I say that is because who is he going to press his case to?
Mhm.
If he has any contact with any Supreme Court justice or any officer of the court about the merits of these proceedings, that's what's called an ex parte contact, and that can get you disbarred.
Mm.
So if that is what they are doing, that's pretty bad and it's pretty unethical. And that's why I doubt that that's an accurate statement.
Yeah, of course. So Abe acknowledged Stephanie earlier, and I want to bring Stephanie up. Stephanie has been amazing online talking about this case and just making sure as many people as possible knew that this was happening and were actively taking action with the rest of us. And this is your first time on one of our vigils, so I just wanted to give you a moment to introduce yourself and share your thoughts for today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. And yeah, I am an author and a podcaster who focuses on spirituality and collective liberation. I believe that we are all interconnected and we have a divine responsibility to one another. And when I first learned about Jeffrey's case, there were two things that stood out to me. The first was just how clear cut it seemed to me that Alabama is seeking out a death sentence that the jury didn't vote for, and that would not be legal under current law today. And it just is so obviously unjust. It really, really made an imprint on me. And I have been grateful to speak out for Jeffrey. And I'm still holding on to hope and praying for him and his family. And the other thing that stood out to me was just his character, his spirit, his essence. And in reading and learning about Jeffrey and who he's become and his mentorship and his impact on his community and his loved ones, he is just a literal embodiment of what faith means and what faith is. And I think that is something that is so rare in this day and age. And yeah, I am continuing to hold out hope and pray for him and his loved ones. And I will keep it short and sweet. But thank you all for everything that you do. And yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie. Abe, did you want to hop in?
If I may, yes.
All right.
All right. So I'm here again outside the governor's mansion. You can see a bunch of folks who are here from the lawyers' offices and from other groups. And with me is Max from the ACLU.
Hi, everyone.
Can you hear Max?
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Can you hear him?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So hold on a minute. There's emergency vehicle. All right, the EMS is with us.
Yeah,
tonight.
exactly.
Max, tell us, you're an intern at the ACLU of Alabama.
Intern down here.
What's bringing you out here tonight?
What's bringing me out here tonight is that the death penalty is already an affront to human life and obviously should be abolished. Especially in the case with Jeffery Lee, you have a case of judicial override where the jury's will was to sentence him to life in prison, and a judge overrode the will of the people. I think it's an especially egregious way to use the death penalty, and I'm here to show support to Jeffery Lee and his family, and to be a part of the movement to hopefully abolish the death penalty.
That's great. Thank you for being here. And you go to school then?
Yeah, I go to school. Yeah, I'm a Columbia Law School Rising 2L.
All right. Well, thanks for being out.
Thank you so much.
And you were at the rally the other day too.
Yeah, I was.
All right. Well,
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
cool. Hey, Ronald's here. He's on his Zoom himself, but Ronald, what's your son say?
So it says say no to gas, executions, suffocations, etc. And that's what we're out here tonight. We would really prefer the governor step in and give clemency. That would settle this once and for all. But either method it takes for Jeffrey not to be executed tonight. Of course, if the governor does, it's more permanent. But we're just out here to show our oppositions to the Alabama way. It's pretty interesting that these signs are red and white, which is the colors of the University of Alabama.
I'd like
And-
to say we did that on purpose, but
And I-
that's one of the action colors
Yeah.
too.
I guess you'd say Georgia because black is in there. But for many of us, we kind of hate this as an Alabama thing. We feel like we can be better than this, and we don't have to be back in the Stone Age. It's time to end this. All life is redeemable. If you're a faith believer like I am, you know this. Jeffrey's life, as the previous person or two persons ago that hosts the podcast, I don't know her name. Jeffrey's life is redeemed. He has a purpose. And let's not cut that short. He has a son that's getting married very soon. And from hearing from some of the words that I got, one of the scriptures they're standing on in Holman is, "You will see your children's children." And Jeffrey's son is about to get married. So I think he would like to see his children's children. We shouldn't do this at any time. We shouldn't do this around Juneteenth. We shouldn't do this around Father's Day. We shouldn't do it at all. And thanks for letting me talk a minute today. Appreciate
Amen, amen. So that's our report for the moment from here outside the governor's mansion in Montgomery, Alabama.
Thank you, Abe.
And
And
let's make sure we hear from some other folks too, and
Yes.
others who are.
I am going to others. Real quick, it was shared among some of us on the panel, but it was in fact confirmed that Steve Marshall did go to DC, which is wild. I just wanted to throw that out there because it wasn't in the public chat. But I think that especially now it's appropriate. We've heard all about his case. We've heard a little bit about him through the eyes of those around him. But I wanted to share a video that was produced during this campaign by Gigi and others on the PR team that will show you Jeffrey himself, like through his own words.
Hey, Allie, before that starts, I was just going to say that one of the reasons that Steve Marshall is in DC is that he's having conversations with the Trump administration about being the next Attorney General of the United States.
Jeez. Okay.
So that's what, I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to go to the Supreme Court and do whatever he could. But my point is that I think it's even more nefarious than that.
He won't go to the Supreme Court, but at least there's a valid reason for him to be in Washington.
That's what I just wanted to let everyone know.
Thank you. Hold up. Technology is not our friend today, so why don't we allow Janet to share your prayer while I'm trying to figure out what's going on this end.
Thank you, Ali. Obviously, we're still hoping that that J Love will not be executed this evening. But this is the prayer that I've written for him. So for those of you who haven't, first of all, apologies. I've had a 2-hour choir rehearsal before earlier this evening. I sing with the Manchester Gospel Choir, and we've got a concert coming up soon. So I hope you can hear me okay. My name is Janet Walsh. I'm a Christian believer. I live near Manchester in the United Kingdom. Here, the last executions were carried out in 1964. That's over 60 years ago. And the death penalty was completely abolished in 1969. Jesus has filled my heart with compassion for all those on death row in the USA. And I'm standing here with you all now in Vigil today, And this is my prayer for Jeffery Lee, J-Love. Some verses from the book of Isaiah. He tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carries them close to his heart. Thank you, Father God, that you tend us, your flock, like a shepherd, gathering us in your arms and carrying us close to your heart. Thank you, Heavenly Father, that you are holding Jeffery Lee close to your heart this evening as he faces the barbaric and cruel ending of his life here on earth. Help Jeffery to find rest in you, O Lord God, to put his hope in you. Be his mighty rock and help him to take refuge in the shelter of your wings. May he be enthroned in your presence forever, dwelling in your tent and surrounded by a love for him. Give strength to Jeffery's families and friends, O loving God. Draw them close to you and fill each one of them with your peace. And Father God, if this execution goes to ahead today, I pray, O God, that you will help them through the time in the valley of the shadow of death. And Father God, for Governor Kay Ivey, I pray, Holy Spirit, that you will fall on her with your mighty power and that you will soften her hardened heart and put a stop to Jeffrey's execution, O God, but also to put a stop to any more of these barbaric gas executions. O Lord God, we cry out to you and ask you to come and deliver the people of the US from the desire to kill and to save them from bloodthirsty men who call for executions. Send your love upon those on death row and continue to fill us with a mighty passion in our campaigning against the death penalty. I offer up all these prayers now in the precious name of our Lord and Saviour. Amen.
Thank you, Janet. Let me.
So first off, I want to just say, like, it's kind of strange being on this side of a rally because being a member of PHADP for so long here at Holman, I've been on the other side of the rally, standing in the circle for guys that is facing execution, and we have the protest vigil on the inside on from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And, you know, being in that circle, being on that side of it, it's kind of different to where I find myself now, being on this side of it. But, you know, the experience is different, but, you know, the goal is still the same. That we are out here, that you all are out there standing up for me, rallying for me. And words can't express my gratitude because, like I say, I know the feeling of being able to stand up for someone else that was in a similar situation. And, you know, Though the struggle seems hard, the fight must continue. You know, our ultimate goal is to help people understand the injustices that goes on in and around the justice system. And I appreciate each and every one of you all for coming out, standing up for me, fighting for Jeffery Lee. And it's kind of humbling to be able to record this message. You know, I never thought that I would be in this position, but here I am. And I'm thankful for the strength to actually be able to speak these words, being of sound mind, to be able to just share what's on my heart to the supporters, to those that's in this fight, in this battle with me, and also to those that's been in this fight, in this battle with me for so many years. I am so appreciative and so thankful for that I was able to have people around me that's of like mind, that has a goal to not only help me but help others that's coming after me, to help others that may find themselves in the same position. And you know, like I say, I've been a part of it in here as a faithful member of Project Hope. That we have our Vigil. You know, my goal in here, I only do the vigils. I let the guys know when the vigils is, what time the vigils is, who gonna be at the vigils and where they gonna be at. And so now here I am, speaking at a vigil for me. It's humbling. I wouldn't say it's sad because, you know, I'm not sad. I've actually got some joy. I woke up this morning thankful to see another day, thankful to be able to be on this side. And so I just ask y'all to just continue to keep up the fight because it's never over with.
I just wanted to share that so that we could hear from Jeffery himself. Lauren, I know I wanted to go to you next, or Sarah. I know that you just turned off your camera, Lauren. Oh, you're muted.
We turned our camera off because Abe reminded us that if we have the cameras on during the video, it shows up funny. So sorry about that.
No, all good.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am Lauren Pope, the Executive Director of Rehumanize International. We are a group that opposes all forms of aggressive violence, specifically state-sponsored or sanctioned violence like the death penalty. And yeah, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about the case, specifically the execution methods, because this filing is wild. I know that Rob talked about the legal issues surrounding it and like all of that side, but just the actual arguments that they are making relating to other methods of execution, I think is probably the clearest admission of harm for those other methods that I have ever seen. So I'm just going to read you a couple of quotes that relates not to the gas executions, but other methods that we also use and how they are measuring those against them. So first we have this line, which is saying that this notion of severe pain. So he's saying that that we can't, the method and nonetheless involves a level of severe pain akin to barbaric torture is outlandish. As the district court recognized, if hanging, which also often causes distress associated with hair hunger, is constitutional, then there can be no question that the physiological discomfort caused by nitrogen hypoxia does violate the Constitution. So they're admitting to air hunger, which is a very torturous experience. I don't know if any of you have asthma or have experienced even a slight bit of that. It's very torturous. They're admitting that execution by hanging results in that same feeling. Then they go on and talk about if we would have a firing squad execution as the alternative, which of course they go into some practical reasons why they can't do that because they don't have it set up, but they talk about it as a method of execution. And here's what they say about firing squads. They say, The 11th Circuit previously described a firing squad execution as when 4 or 5 bullets strike the heart, they tear the heart muscle to pieces and blow apart the tissue. Moreover, the inmate would not lose consciousness for 3 to 6 seconds, during which time he would feel pain and suffering. It's likely that they would feel excruciating pain for 10 to 15 seconds, unless it is a botched execution, which misses the inmate's heart. And then it goes on to describe the process of a botched execution, which again, I mean, this sounds like something that we would be putting out, right? They go in excruciating detail about how painful and how torturous these methods of execution are in order to prove a point that it is then okay to use this also torturous method of execution. Instead of reading it and saying, what in the world are we doing? How you are, as a state, openly saying that you are having these extremely destructive methods of execution, but defending them. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about the nitrogen execution itself, because this concept of nitrogen asphyxiation is also used. There is a pod type situation that someone created in Switzerland as an assisted suicide method, and they were going to have this nitrogen asphyxiation as part of it, and it was only used, I think I'm aware of, one time, and went horribly wrong. There is evidence that after many minutes of this woman having basically suffocation, she had strangulation marks around her neck at the end, which they are unable to really prove what happened there. I think it's still being adjudicated, but it was not the swift, painless execution or, method that they thought was going to happen. And obviously, as Jeff Hood has spoken to extensively, it is not a swift and painless method when performed as a method of execution either. But the state in this filing says specifically 2 or 3 minutes, and then they'll be dead and they will be unconscious within 45 seconds. That is what the state of Alabama is arguing is true, despite all the evidence to the contrary. So I just wanted to point all of that out because I think Jeff made a really good point about this being a case that could really turn things around, right? This particular method, but then if we're just looking about what we are doing as a country, the absolute barbarous methods that we are using, but beyond the methods, the fact that we are doing this at all, that we are turning people who should be, agents of justice into killers in these extremely brutal ways. I mean, they are quoting extreme brutality in this. So I wanted to point that out. I think it's important. And then to leave you on a note that's perhaps not as, unsettling and horrific, although it is in its own way. I have this poem that was written by Edith Stein, and she was killed at Auschwitz legally at the time by gas suffocation. But before that, she had written this poem that was a reflection of the cross. The name that she took when she entered the monastery was Saint Teresa of the Cross, and she has this reflection of Christ on the cross facing his execution by the state. And I wanted to read that for you all. And it's actually imagining Mary looking up at Jesus and seeing this. And so it says, "Today I stood with you beneath the cross, and I felt more clearly than I ever did that you became our mother only there. Even an earthly mother faithfully seeks to fulfill the last will of her son. But you became the handmaid of the Lord. The life and the being of God made man was perfectly inscribed in your own life. So you could take your own into your heart, and with the lifeblood of your bitter pains, you purchased life anew for every soul. You know us all, our wounds, our imperfections. But you also know the celestial radiance, which your son's love would shed on us in heaven. Thus carefully you guide our faltering footsteps, no price too high for you to lead us to our goal. But those whom you have chosen for companions to stand with you around the eternal throne, here they must stand with you beneath the cross, and with the lifeblood of their own bitter pains must purchase heavenly glory for those souls whom God's own Son entrusted to their care." And I just wanted to end with that reflection that in Alabama specifically, we are dealing with people who very much profess Christianity, who are following someone who was executed by the state, that we have as part of our ethos as Christians, the cross, and how we just continue again and again and again to subject people to this barbarous nature.
Lauren, I didn't mean to chill out up here with you for so long, but I did. I was going, I was going to just respond about Dr. Nitsky, who is he's the founder and director of Exit International, the assisted suicide group that you were talking about, and I have this really peculiar story that I wanted to share. Um, and Kenny, in the weeks preceding his execution, there were a number of hearings in Judge Huffaker's court, a lot of which involved religious liberty, and other ones that involved, what nitrogen hypoxia is and that sort of thing. And they had brought Dr. Nitsky to be an expert on that. And so here I am, like, sort of advising the legal team, and he's advising the legal team. And the more I learned about all of this Exit International stuff, I was like, man, this is a lot. And I found myself um, having lunch with him one day in the midst of all of this. And he's a very interesting dude, to say the least. Um, but it was fascinating um, to listen to him talk about what nitrogen does to the body. And even more than that, to sort of, there was a moment where I asked him, I said, it's very interesting that you're one of the few people who is actually alive, who is, advocating for nitrogen, but you have never experienced it yourself. And he chuckled at that. But, I think that the more I talked to him, the I guess the more interesting it was to just hear him say, like, like what you were talking about is the sarcopod. It's a pod where somebody puts themselves in and it fills with nitrogen, and they use that to kill themselves or to commit suicide. And he talked about how, um, even when someone wants to die, that there's a reaction to try to breathe, that the human body, it's instinct to try to breathe. And he was talking about how nitrogen gas executions or nitrogen hypoxia is torture on top of torture. And it was interesting that he basically said if people want to kill themselves, then I'm more than happy to provide the pod to make it happen. But that is a whole nother conversation. But my point is that he was very honest about how horrific dying from nitrogen exposure, inhalation, or lack of inhalation is. And so, but at the same time, it was also really interesting that he was there arguing for this not to happen as well. So
Thank you.
It's a strange, weird world where we have so many disparate things with that. And then with, I always go back to too, it's just a thing that, we can do and press on, that when we have these executions with the masks themselves are welding masks, and you have people who are in the welding industry who are like, there's so many strange intersections of industry, and that all is leading to death.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. I just wanted to jump in real quick after you mentioned the mask. So we have had an ongoing campaign with Worth Rises to go after the manufacturer of the mask, and we also worked with them around the chemical manufacturer that produced the drugs that were used in federal executions and possibly elsewhere. But so the company that produces the mask is called Allegro Industries. They're in South Carolina. Their owner is a company called Walter Surface Technologies, which is based out of Connecticut. And
Allie,
yes,
it's actually written on the Allegro Industries is written on the front of the mask. And one of the things they do in the chamber is, so that we don't do all of this work, they put a piece of black tape over Allegro Industries so that we couldn't come out here and tell everyone that it was from Allegro Industries. Anyway.
Yeah, no. So yesterday we were doing a live with Stephanie and Senator Stewart and Gigi, and we talked about Walter Surface Tech because we've been inviting people to call Walter Surface Technology for months, actually for years now, but we really drove it up again around this execution and urged them to disavow the use of their mask in killing people. It's normally life-saving equipment, and we have been tagging them on social media and all the things. So after we saved the Instagram live, I tagged Walter Surface Technologies in the caption, and I put their phone number so that folks could continue calling them in addition to Governor Ivey. And they, to my surprise, like, I don't know, 2 minutes after I put like it went live, we got a response from them. And hold on, I'm trying to find the picture. Oh, hold one sec. I should have had this already up. So Walter Service Tech says, "Hello, I think we're being tagged by mistake. Unless you want drill bits, abrasives, and safety products." And I responded, "No mistake. Add to that list respirator masks like the one Allegro Industries, your subsidiary, produces used in nitrogen executions in Alabama and Louisiana." I was just amused by that interaction and the fact that they even like said anything. I totally like it caught me off guard. I looked down at my Apple Watch and I'm like I like had to like do a double take. I'm like, no, there's something wrong. So I logged into Instagram again and they actually have in fact commented, except when they received my response through the DPA page, their comment disappeared. So I think they deleted it. But I just wanted to share that. There's a screenshot in the chat because I think it was comical, amusing. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's worth something that happened because I wanted to do that because the people that have been calling Walter Surface Technologies religiously have all reported back them being really snippy. And I mean, I think that that's a good thing because they're getting all these calls and they know that what they're doing is wrong. And what I said on some of the live streams is if they don't want to be associated with killing and essentially act as an accomplice to murder, it's not so difficult just to come out and say that this equipment is normally to save lives and we don't want it to be used to kill people. It's really not that hard to do that. And so I think the fact that they're refusing to acknowledge that is really telling about their character, and hopefully things change. But for now, they are doing everything possible to pretend like this is not a thing.
Allie, before we go to Esther, I just wanted to quickly say that when we talk about this mask, we're not talking about a super expensive thing. I bought this. I think we bought this for $350, and states are paying $500,000 for execution drugs. So one of the reasons that that Alabama and other states are so determined to use this method is because it's cheap, and that I think really speaks to what they think about life in general.
Yeah.
And Esther, I know that you had something to say, and I
Yes,
also know.
I would like to speak something that Abe has said many times, that once you get to death row, it's the beginning of torture. And I would like to respectfully disagree. In fact, I would say going to population is actually worse than death row. And I would like to read something from Jailer, from Jeffery Lee, and seeing it is his evening. And I'm just going to read, and then maybe you will understand what I'm talking about. We asked the board to write on the topic what Project Hope to avoid the death penalty means to me. This is the third article in the series. We hope it will give you some insights into who we are as well as what we are all about. Hello to the readers and supporters of Project Hope to avoid the death penalty. I'm Jeffery Lee, and I've been in prison for the past 18 years, and this is year 17 here at Holman, Life Row. I remember when I first arrived at Holman, I hadn't found myself yet. I was still lost in who I was and used to be in the free world. So in the first few months, I wasn't allowed to go outside and participate in sports and activities with everyone else. So I was allowed to have exercise in a cage that was 12 by 12 feet. I only went outside to exercise twice because I didn't want to be treated like an animal. On one of those days outside the cage, I met a young man by the name of Carrie Boo Grayson, who has been executed meanwhile, and he was the first person to mention Project Hope to abolish the death penalty. After I came off single walk and placed in group walk, I was allowed to go outside with everyone else. Once outside, I was introduced to some of the guys who were members of Project Hope to abolish the death penalty. The next week, I was invited to go to orientation for the group. I met the board members of the group who told me the purpose and goals of the group. After a couple of months, I decided to become a member of Project Hope to abolish the death penalty. My first goal was to educate myself about capital punishment and the justice system in the United States of America and the death penalty in the state of Alabama. Once I educated myself, I was able to inform my family. Project Hope means a lot to me because it allows me the opportunity to learn how to fight and stand up for my life. Also gives me the tools to understand where I can be of use to the brothers here at Holman, as well as my community, state, and country. I'm thankful to Project Hope to abolish the death penalty because it is a lifesaver. I just want to say that because Viktor Frankl, who was in a concentration camp, wrote Man's Search for Meaning. We can find meaning wherever we go. And I think yes, we can sympathize and empathize and so on. But I think we have to, instead of that, it would be better to help people find themselves, do something. We've got wonderful artists, actually, mentioned Boo, who was a great artist. We have that in all the various prisons. So that's not the end. It is not the end to come to death row. For a whole lot of people, it is a beginning. I've seen more people come into their own. You've mentioned Anne, who was a German, dear friend. I see it again and again. So no, it is not the end. I just needed to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Finally, we're gonna get to Sarah DeArmond. I am so sorry it took us so long to get to you, Sarah, but glad you could be here with us and glad that you've been able to do so much advocacy around this case as well. And you did the TikTok live with us this morning. Let me find Sarah. There you go. Take it away, Sarah.
It's all good. I completely understand. I thank everyone for being here. Thank you for having me here. And I wish it were under better circumstances. Hopefully, we will get a miracle here soon. But something I wanted to highlight really quick is when I was watching Jeffery Lee's documentary, two of the jurors spoke in it, and they said that while they wanted him to be punished, which is why they voted for life without parole, they did not want him to die, but they said punishment was appropriate. But when the judge had thrown out the sentence, they thought to themselves that why were we even here? And Kay Ivey had already abolished this in 2017, as was said earlier. And I agree with the jurors. What's the point of them even being there, taking time out of their schedules, time out of their lives, work, everything, for it just to be thrown out? And so that's what we want. We want the jury's original decision to be honored, to give him clemency. And as you all were saying, there's absolutely no humane way to take a life. And I know a lot of people try to make the argument over and over the nitrogen suffocation, that it's safe. And we have seen over and over it is not. So I am very hopeful that this method of execution will end.
Thank you, Sarah. I mean, it would be really freaking amazing if we actually get to the end on this method after centuries of executing people in this country. And it's wild that it would have taken this long, but if we can do it, that is a massive hurdle to cross. Jeff, and then Abe.
I think Abe was next. You there, Abe?
I am, and I'm here with, well, first, let me just say, Esther, I really appreciate that. And I think that it is a beautiful thing when people can find themselves and find value and create value for themselves. And what I mean when I say the torture of the death penalty starts from the moment a cop says you're going to fly for this is essentially it's a mental torture. No matter what your personal perspective is, you're still going to sleep knowing that somebody's waiting to kill you. And how you deal with that is really important, but it's still always there. You're never going to walk on grass barefoot again. You can't go order a pizza when you feel like it. I mean, it robs you of life in a way that you have to overcome. And it's beautiful when they can. But I think it's really a symbolic comment that helps people see some of that. That's why I say it when I do. And I don't have any problem with people having different perspectives. One of the people that's here with a different perspective is Cecilia. What's your last name again?
My last name is Cecilia. Well, I'm Cecilia Baca. I am the executive director of the Federal Defender's Office.
Hold on. Can you hear her all right?
She was chopping a little bit, so if you could just speak slightly
Lee
slower.
is a client of our office, and his legal team is down there with him right now. And he actually sent a scripture that he'd like me to share with all of you who are here supporting him, the community who's supporting him. And so I'd like to read that to you. It's a scripture from the book of Isaiah. We have a strong city. God makes salvation its walls and its ramparts. Open the gates that the righteous nation may enter, the nation that keeps faith. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord himself is the rock eternal. He humbles those who dwell on high. He lays the lofty city low. He levels it to the ground and casts it down to the dust. Trample it down. The feet of the oppressed, the footsteps of the poor. So he wanted me to share that with you all, which I think is amazing, that at this moment when we don't know what's going to happen with his life, that he is sharing scripture with all the people who are supporting him. And for all of those who've done anything to support him, we really thank you. He thanks you. And let's keep fighting for him and everyone else.
And Cecilia, it's so great to see you out here, and a lot of people on your team are out here. Can you talk a little bit about the people that are doing the work? And you don't have to name names or anything like that, but so many people that are watching, we're not lawyers. We don't do this work every day, and you all are in the midst of this, fighting for your clients every day. What's it like? How are people holding up? How can we support you all?
Well, I would say that for the people we really need to be worrying about or thinking about are Leslie Smith and Spencer Hahn, who are down at death row right now, waiting to see what might happen, whether they have to witness someone that they love, someone that they've worked with for years, be executed by the state, be killed, murdered by the state. These, obviously there's trauma that's visited on all the people who worked with Jeffrey, who love Jeffrey. Regardless of what he's done, what he's been convicted of, he has so many people who love him. His family are down there. They've been visiting with him this week and just trying to get the last minutes in if the Supreme Court decides that they are going to disregard what the 11th Circuit has said, that this is an unconstitutional way to kill people. So, I would just say, think of all the people on his team, think of his family, think of him, because this is just a horrible thing that's done. And so we appreciate everyone who has given support to Jeffrey Lee and his family, his team, and everybody.
Thank you. I'm a little distracted by people driving the wrong way down this one-way street.
Right.
Not sure what's going on there. But,
Staying on the street, yeah.
well, hopefully we don't see any accidents. Thank you, Cecilia. We really appreciate
Thank
you being
you.
out here.
Well, thank you so much for doing it.
Of course. And, and that's the thing is it takes all kinds of people and a lot of people that just don't, they're so focused on the job, they can't get out in the street. But what's amazing is some of the people that are out in the streets are the lawyers. And we're seeing that more and more because I think, and I think we talk about this every so often, you can have the best lawyers in the world and the best arguments that are the most cogent and the most reasonable. And still the courts have, for the last number of years, been totally disregarding that. And hopefully we see some change on that very soon. So back to whoever's on the panel, and we'll check back in a little bit.
Thank you, Abe. I saw that Rob popped back in just before we went to Cecilia, so I wanted to give you a moment to jump in.
Well, really all I have to add is that I checked the docket again and there's nothing new. So it looks like it's not going to be a quick decision. But then again, in terms of predictions, I'm wrong a lot.
Yeah.
I was going to jump in. Rob, so when we talk about cruel and unusual punishment, I think one of the things that people often wonder is how much is too much? Like what makes something cruel and unusual? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, in a lot of these states, it's more cruel and unusual to leave someone in prison for the rest of their life, as opposed to killing them. And I don't say that. I mean, I say that in a way of that some of these prison systems are absolutely horrible. But my point is how much is too much? What is cruel? What is unusual? What has the Supreme courts give? How have they given us the ability to define such things?
Well, they pretty much haven't given us the ability to define it. When we look at the history of what cruel and unusual means, if you go back to the Constitutional Congress, when they were debating the Eighth Amendment, Representative Livermore said, it seems awfully aspirational, but in terms of the content, I don't see a whole lot. And that's pretty much sums it up. The framers believed, and we can't tell this from what they said at the Constitutional Convention, but you can gather it from what people like Patrick Henry and others were saying at various times in state constitutional conventions, that the framers were concerned about the abuse of authority and the abuse of power. And they did not want to leave future generations shackled in their ability to respond to that. There are quotes like, legislatures can be extremely creative in their invention of cruelties. And those are things that we have to be able, you have to be able to stop. So in the late 1800s, Wilkerson versus Utah, there's a challenge to the firing squad. The U.S. Supreme Court says it's okay. And it offers, general statement about this is not cruel. This is not unusually cruel. In Weems versus United States in 1910, the court starts talking about, it does an analysis of what the framers intended. And what they came down to was that the Eighth Amendment was to be interpreted flexibly. And it was to, the language wouldn't change, but societal notions of what's acceptable do. It didn't use the word evolution because that was still controversial, Darwin and Scopes monkey trials and so forth. But it adopted an evolutionary interpretation of what cruel and unusual is. And then finally, in 1958, in Trope versus Dulles, the United States Supreme Court produces the modern doctrine, which is that a punishment is cruel and unusual if it offends the evolving standards of decency. Now, what does that mean, right? And it is intentionally not specific because it changes. It changes as society grows. The founders envisioned the Eighth Amendment as being aspirational. The Supreme Court during the Warren years and in previous times going up to the Warren Court viewed it as evolving as society matures. And the idea was that we as a society are getting better, and we will have a clearer idea of what is right and wrong, what is acceptable as time goes on. Now, this current Supreme Court doesn't like that doctrine very much. And apart from that, no one has said how much is too much.
Rob, I think Lauren said that she was going to offer part of the Attorney General's rationale.
Yeah.
But before you do, Lauren,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that what you're about to read, I thought was, and I know you said this earlier, Lauren, that quite fascinating. I mean, it really is sort of a blueprint to abolish the death penalty, totally. And what I mean by that is he's like, oh, this could be considered cruel and unusual. This could be considered cruel and unusual. All of these different things could be considered cruel and unusual. And I'm sitting here going, my gosh, am I reading like the latest abolitionist diatribe? And the reality is, though, he's, of course, using it to say it doesn't matter. But
yeah, and before Lauren goes into that, there's a difference between long-term strategic thinking and case-by-case individual thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was struck very recently by two different comments by two different attorneys general in offering vehement objections to granting commutations. So one of them is Steve Marshall in this case, right? Where it's outrageous that anyone would consider a commutation, and he says that he's doing it in the name of the victims, right? Then Chris Cobaugh in Kansas vehemently objects to the Kansas death row prisoners filing applications for clemency. And the reason he's doing it is because juries have decided that it's the appropriate punishment. Now, we know full well that when there's a unanimous jury vote, that's exactly what Steve Marshall says, because he's looking at the case that's sitting in front of him. I would bet you that the Kansas Attorney General would not come to Alabama and say you should grant a commutation for Jeffery Lee because we need to honor the jury's verdict, right? So we're looking at case-by-case decisions where they're making whatever argument they think is going to benefit them in the given case. In the long term, what they're doing, and Lauren's going to tell us this, what they're doing is providing political ammunition for why you can't trust government with any method.
Yeah, absolutely. And I picked a fairly short excerpt to try to, keep us moving. But this is where they're specifically talking about, like Rob was saying earlier, the super added pain aspect of what would cause something to be cruel and unusual. So he says, the anxiety evoked by air hunger, lasting not significantly more than 1 to 3 minutes, is more an inescapable consequence of death than super added pain, well beyond what's needed to effectuate a death sentence. This protocol causes physiological discomfort, but even if that discomfort may feel akin to suffocation for some, This is insufficient to prove an Eighth Amendment violation because it would be no more uncomfortable than the risks associated with hanging. Again, the court reminded Lee alleges the pain is not a physical pain like a broken bone. So ignoring the lies, as we hear about the length of time and all of that, it's just, how can we say this is an Eighth Amendment violation when you also have air hunger with hanging and we allow that? So there's our justification, which is just, I mean, I feel like it is truly shocking to me that they're actually acknowledging air hunger with hanging executions. Like, it's just, yeah. This
Rob,
is
The American Thoracic Society dealt with that directly in their amicus brief. The fact of the matter is, well, hangings are brutal, and that's why hangings have gone out of fashion. They're brutal and they get botched all the time. But as the American Thoracic Society pointed out, that a properly administered hanging, and it seems strange to even say something like that, but a properly administered hanging, when that occurs, the neck snaps immediately. And the death is not caused by suffocation. The death is not caused by air hunger. The death is caused by the breaking of the neck. They point out that in a bad hanging, where it's inappropriately done, then the person strangles to death, and that strangulation causes the air hunger, and that's a bad thing. So the Attorney General is wrong when he tries to draw the analogy to hanging, and to the extent that there is an analogy, his analogy is to hangings that are botched, which would be declared cruel and unusual.
I wanted to jump in real quick, and two things. One is I keep hearing this 1 to 3 minute stuff. I mean, I was there. We're not talking about 1 to 3 minutes. I mean, with Kenny, even if you discount what I'm saying, the estimates run as high as 7 to 9 minutes. I have had it pegged at 8.5 minutes. And with Anthony Boyd, it was absolutely unbelievable in that he was still showing movement and signs of consciousness 18 minutes into the execution. We're not talking about a couple of minutes. I mean, and a couple of minutes would be bad enough, but we're talking about a method that brings this sort of super added torture that really is just unbelievable. The other thing I was going to, oh, go ahead, Rob. I had a question from somebody after that.
Well, Jeff, one of the things that's interesting, these were conservative judges who decided that the trial court judge who decided what the facts were, the fact finding, and that was a conservative finding of how long you'd be experiencing air hunger. The evidence presented at the evidentiary hearing was exactly as you described, that it's much longer. And if you read the euthanasia manual of the American Veterinary Medical Association, they talk about the length of time that animals remain conscious when they are killed by gas suffocation. And their estimate was for a mammal that weighed in the range of 70 to 90 pounds, you're going to have 7 minutes. So one would expect in a, quote, textbook execution, which is the term that Steve Marshall has used to describe the use of gas suffocation in Alabama, that if something proceeds in a textbook manner, for a human being who weighs more than 70 to 90 pounds, consciousness should continue for more than 7 minutes. And that's exactly what we've seen in these executions. All the evidence is that there's extended convulsions, that people are aware of what's going on, just as the mice are aware, just as the dogs are aware, just as the pigs are aware. We don't think that humans have lesser consciousness and lesser cognitive abilities and lesser emotional capabilities than mice and dogs and pigs. And so there's no reason to expect that our bodies will respond differently We are awake, we are aware, we are conscious, we are tortured for much longer than the court said. And the court found that the period in which we are conscious is sufficient to establish that it's torturous.
Thank you, Rob. We had a question come in from somebody asking about the shadow docket. How does that work? What is the shadow docket?
I would say read Steve's book. The shadow docket is a term that was relatively recently invented. Essentially, it's the emergency docket that the court hears cases during its regular term according to just a long history of this is how we do it. And that's what I described earlier about there's full briefing by both sides as to whether the court should review the case, briefing by both sides after that on the merits of the case, and then oral argument in front of the court. So that's your traditional docket. The shadow docket are cases that come up in an emergency setting. Typically, it is supposed to exist for when there is an actual emergency. And because of exigent circumstances, the case needs to be decided real quickly. When you have decisions on the shadow docket, you have quickly put together pleadings. You don't have time to do a lot of legal research. You don't have time to develop the arguments thoroughly. You don't have time to debunk lies that the other side might be saying. And the court makes its judgment based on these less than ideal pleadings and without oral argument. So if a judge has a question, the parties don't have an opportunity to say, no, Judge, that's not, no, Your Honor, Justice, that's not really what's going on. Here's what's going on. And this Supreme Court has used the emergency procedures much more than any other court in the history of this country, because the shadow docket decisions tend not to explain why they're doing what they're doing. They tend not to create law. They just create outcomes. And the outcomes have both political and legal impact. And they signal to other people what the court may think is acceptable and may not think is acceptable. And shadow docket decisions may reach outcomes in given cases that are not the outcomes that get reached when the issue is ultimately decided later on as a matter of law. So this Supreme Court has used the shadow docket to make it impossible to have full hearings on a variety of constitutional violations. It's used it in cases dealing with transgender rights. It's used it with cases dealing with immigration. It's used it extensively in cases involving capital punishment and the possibility of executions. And it is a bad way of doing things. It creates questions about what the law is, and it undermines confidence in the integrity of the courts and faith that the courts are actually going to be doing law as opposed to playing politics.
Allie, did we have anybody else that want to jump in? I can keep on talking to Rob all night.
I know Rob is just like a treasure trove of everything, and it's so great to have you with us for all of these executions. And I mean, you are just a tremendous asset to our movement. So we're just grateful for you. But
my face is already red from my anti-rosacea medicine, so you can't tell I'm lucky.
No, I mean, sincerely, we are really grateful. We're really fortunate to have you. I did want to share like a little while ago, but then the conversation kept going. Sarah had mentioned the jurors and them being frustrated about how their decision like didn't matter. It was rendered obsolete. And there's just like a brief clip from the clemency video that I wanted to share just so you could see that. So give me 1 second.
If the judge was going to make the decision anyway, there was no need for a jury.
What we said didn't matter. Why bring us to a court? Take us off. I was taking off my job time because I feel like that's what we did. We waste our time.
I didn't know that the judge had the authority to erase what our verdict was.
I did not think the judge could go behind the 12 jurors and give somebody the death sentence if the jurors say life in prison without parole. No, I never voted for death. I could see that he had a mental problem. Something was wrong with him.
Verdict that we did as a jury to give him life without parole, but I don't want him put to death. If the
That was just a super short little clip, but I wanted to share that. I see you're back with us, Lauren. Did you have something that you wanted to add to the conversation?
No, I just had, sorry, I didn't realize my audio was still on. I just hadn't turned the camera off since last time. We're good.
Oh yeah, no worries, no worries. Esther,
Yeah,
did you?
Ellie?
Yes.
One of the things that's really interesting, and I know I'm in here for all this esoteric theoretical stuff, but the United States Supreme Court, when it talks about how it's going to measure what the evolving standards of decency are, one of the things that it says you're supposed to look at is what juries do and what juries want. And it says that juries in capital cases are supposed to express the conscience of the community. There's no state in the country, and we've heard this earlier, no state in the country that still allows judges to overrule what the jurors have said when they vote for life. So we know that legislatures say this is an inappropriate procedure. You've just heard what jurors feel when their efforts are completely wasted and their expression of the conscience of the community is ignored. From traditional Supreme Court doctrine on the factors that you need to look at in deciding whether a death penalty practice is valid or not, all of them point to the invalidity of judicial override of death sentences. And there is no constitutionally acceptable reason why anybody who is sentenced under that outlier practice should be allowed to be executed. And that's another one of the flaws in our system with this United States Supreme Court refusing to grant review of that issue and allowing people that jurors have said should live to be executed.
Allie, I wanted to just jump in and share something real quick, if that's okay.
Go for it.
So this is not a shameless plug, but I am going to plug. Can y'all see that? Suffocation by Design is the book that I started working on a while ago to sort of document nitrogen executions. And as we were talking about Anthony, I wanted to. I should also say this. It's got this wonderful.
I knew you were going to go there.
There's this wonderful inscription in the front. It says, "To Robert Dunham, friend and scholar, whose unmatched insight and generous guiding voice have defined the nation's understanding of capital punishment."
He consistently tries to flatter me, and then he won't.
So, but I wanted to. We were talking about Anthony. I wanted to read something really quick that might help people understand what it's like to actually see one of these things and be in there. Time collapsed further. I noticed the tiny tremors of the gurney settling, the soft settling of the sheet over Anthony's still chest. Every imperfection, every sound, every flicker of light became a theological reflection on impermanence, on grace and eternal presence. I continued whispering scripture. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I stood trembling and aware of my own fragility. The world had become a void, filled only with the memory of suffering and the deliberate violence of the state. Every heartbeat echoed the terror I had just witnessed. Faith and morality seemed fragile and illusory. The presence of God felt like a shadow hovering between horror and witness. I felt my body begin to physically sag. I folded my hands, leaned slightly forward, closed my eyes, and felt the culmination of presence. I knew that all my guys that I'd accompanied previously were with me too. Over 230 gasps. That's what his body endured. Over 230 separate, distinct moments where Anthony's lungs demanded air, where his body screamed for oxygen, where nitrogen poured into the mask and his body responded with desperate, convulsive inhalations. I had counted many of them. Gasp, gasp, gasp. The rhythm burned into my memory. The sound of a man drowning in slow motion. The sound of a body trying to survive what should not be survivable. The sound of over 230 separate acts of conscious suffocation, each one a torture, each one a violation, each one a moment where Anthony remained aware. Aware of the nitrogen flooding his lungs, aware of the impossibility of escape, aware that his body was being murdered by the state while the world watched and looked away, or looked away. When you consider that I only started counting at 6 o'clock, there could have been at least 40 more gasps that I left out. It was all so difficult to quantify. When the curtains closed at 6:27, his official time of death was recorded later at 6:33. But I knew that what those 6 minutes meant. 6 more minutes of hovering between life and death, 6 more minutes of body clinging to existence even as the nitrogen did its slow mechanical work. 6 more minutes where Anthony Boyd, who had maintained his innocence, who had taught death row inmates about hope, who had transformed his execution into activism and witness, lay still on a gurney while the state finished what it had begun. By the end, the chamber had become a space of intense theological meditation. Every inch of air, every shadow, every microsecond preserved the sacred record of love, courage, endurance, grief, and divine presence. Anthony Boyd had given everything he had to let the world know 3 numbers. 19 minutes of conscious, horrific struggle, 36 total minutes of torturous execution, well over 230 gasps from start to finish.
And thank you for that. That's apart from being extremely well written, it's very poetic. Think about everyone who's watching this, the amount of time it took for Jeff to read that passage. That is less than the amount of time that that a person being executed is enduring air hunger. And the doctors who filed the brief today to try to explain to the court the facts about what air hunger is noted that it's not just gasping for breath. It's that there's a physiological pain that's associated with that. There are people who have experienced air hunger in medical situations, and they describe what it's like. And you know how doctors say you need to rate your pain from 0 to 10. It is rated near 10. It is rated near the top. It is physiological. It is physiologically painful. And because it is an existential crisis for the body, it triggers all sorts of primal instinctive responses like fear. And it's the combination of that intense pain beyond normal physical pain and psychological torture. It's described by people who survive it as extremely traumatic, and they have oftentimes PTSD as a result of it. That's what makes it so horrific. Not just holding your breath, right? It's not just not getting air. It is having the life sucked out of you and being aware of it.
Right. That's right. Thank you, Rob. Hey, Allie, Esther had something that she wanted to add. Go ahead, Esther.
Okay, thank you. This is now from J Love a couple of days ago, and I had told him about the billboard. It was up at Atmore, and I'd heard about the billboard, about the billboard. Attention is attention. Yes, I can feel the love, even if I can't be out there with them at the moment. As I was telling Debbie, that's the attorney earlier, I have my moments where I feel my feelings, but they don't come first. My faith does, and it's stronger than what I feel. When you believe something, it becomes real to you. And in times like these, it becomes a source of my strength. And I have always had hope no matter what. And it's one thing to say it, but it's my lifestyle. And for 28 years, it is who I am. I'm glad some of the guys have decided to choose a different path than the ones that they were on. And now the odds will be in our favor, and the fight we are facing won't seem unwinnable. Always love, J Love. I just want to get back to the positive because that's what J Love would want me to do
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Esther.
without minimizing what's going on.
No,
But that's who he is, and I want him seen.
of course. Thank you, Esther. Allie, I was going to say really quick, something very strange just happened on the docket. We haven't gotten any new information, but I've been, like a lot of us, refreshing that thing over and over again. And I had noticed earlier that Jeffrey Lee's name was spelt wrong.
Yep.
And it just switched. They just spelled it right. They like it was, and the reason this is so apparent to me is because my name is Jeffrey, and everybody spells my name wrong consistently. So it was spelled Jeffrey, and it just switched seconds ago to Jeffery, which is how he
That's
spells it.
correct.
Which
That's
is
correct.
which tells me that there's some folks at least up there paying attention.
But
now,
Jeff, you know somebody else who is spelled that way, Jeff Weaver.
yeah, oh yeah,
same way.
Esther and I have Esther has a friend on death row named Jeff Reber, and she calls him Jeff number one and me Jeff number two. So,
That's
all right,
funny.
Allie, go ahead.
Yeah, we are gonna switch to music in a few minutes, but and not to like detract from the mood again after what Esther had shared. But one of the many things I live with because of my health is air hunger. It's not officially asthma. We think it's related to a different immune condition I have called mast cell activation syndrome. And it can cause all kinds of reactions, and breathing issues is one of them. And um, I was on a medication that um, is not FDA approved to treat the immune condition that I have, even though science is finally catching up and showing that they can be very beneficial for those with MCAS. And so at the beginning of the year, my insurance decided it was going to stop covering my medication because they were changing the diagnosis required for them to cover it. And we were trying to figure out what to do for like 3 weeks because there was no warning, no nothing. And literally for 3 weeks, I couldn't fucking breathe. Excuse my language. I could maybe take one breath every 20 minutes. And like, it was like terrifying when you can't breathe. You like don't know what to do. My inhaler wasn't doing anything for me. So I just wanted to share that because like it's so scary and it still happens a little bit. I'm back on it, but it's nowhere near what it was when I was off my medication for 3 weeks. Um, and I just wanted to share that because it is really scary and to know that this is somebody that this is something that the state is intentionally inducing. I mean, it's just awful. But enough with that. I wanted to transition to some music for the moment, and we'll regroup in a few minutes. Hold up, I lost my folder. 1 second.
Regardless of the evil brought against you, do not retaliate. Do what is good. Regardless of the evil brought against you, do not retaliate. Do what is good and live in peace. Live in peace. Live in peace. Live in peace with everyone. Beloved, leave it to God. He is just and will settle all scores. Oh, beloved, leave it to your God, who is just and will settle all scores. Live in peace. Live in peace. Live in peace. Live in peace with everyone. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. If your enemy is hungry, feed them. If thirsty, give them a drink. You will soften the hardest hearts and lead them to life. So live in peace. Live in peace. Live in peace. Live in peace with everyone. Dreams don't come easy in a narrow place like this. Only when my body is sick do my eyes finally rest. But when they close, the dreaming comes alive, and every face I love is by my side. And the dreams don't stop coming. No, the dreams don't stop coming. Be inspired, still be inspired. inspired, still be inspired. This is where God speaks clearest to me now, where I'm corrected and where I'm taught to grow, where I'm equipped to walk a further mile, put my best foot forward all the while. And the dreams don't stop coming. No, the dreams don't stop coming. Be inspired, still be inspired, still be inspired. A poet asked us long, long ago, what happens to a dream deferred? For some of us, this place will be our end, but still the dreaming comes and comes again. And the dreams don't stop coming. No, the dreams don't stop coming. Oh, the dreams don't stop coming, coming. Oh, the dreams, they don't stop coming. So be inspired, still be inspired, still be inspired, still be inspired, still we will carry on, we will carry on, be inspired, still be inspired.
Give me a moment. I'm just pausing the music for a moment because I need to do something on the other stream. So stand by for 5 seconds.
Allie?
Yes.
Still out here at the prison, or not the prison, sorry, the governor's mansion. And there's a few of us still here, others have gone on. But I just took a call from Tommy Lane, who's on death row. He was asking if there were any developments and shared that they can see, what they usually see on execution nights in terms of corrections workers prepared. He mentioned people in scrubs and that sort of thing. Not that they're doing anything different or new, just that they're ready if they get the go ahead, is how he described it. So he was asking what we knew, if there was anything to report, and I just shared that we're all waiting for the U.S. Supreme Court. But wanted to give that update.
Thank you, Abe.
We'll continue to know the neighbors and the governor here by tolling our bell every so often. Get up there and keep ringing it.
Absolutely.
So that's right, Scott. Luck helps, and we're looking for some luck.
Yes. Thank you, Abe.
Here, let me know if you hear this.
Nope. Nothing. Rob, I saw you just jumped back in. Do we have news?
No, I just wanted to say we in the chat there were questions about what happens when nothing happens, and historically the delay indicates one of two things: either the court just hasn't made up its mind yet. It hasn't reached a majority. It hasn't decided what the order is going to be, or it has reached a decision, but somebody is writing a dissent. In the second instance, the court will let the state know what the decision is. And then the state will either stand down if it's a ruling in favor of the prisoner, or it will ramp up preparations to carry out the execution if it's a ruling in favor of the prosecution. So far, we don't have any indication from whether a van is being, whether the media witnesses are being put into a van to be taken to see an execution. We don't see anything from the state that indicates it's received any word that there's a go-ahead. So that suggests, or to completely stand down. So that suggests that the court still hasn't reached a decision yet, and it could be a long night. Having said that, unfortunately, I have other commitments, so I'm going to have to step off here.
What the hell, Rob? I'm just kidding.
I just want to let everybody know that I won't be here corporeally, but I'll be with you in spirit.
Thank you, Rob.
Yes, thank you so much, Rob.
Good night.
Well, we're going to keep on checking, updating, refreshing the docket. I am curious. I see we have a couple of people who are in the chat who haven't maybe spoken all that much. And is Ronald Wires still out there? Ronald, can you hear me?
He's out there.
Yeah,
with-
Jeff. Hey, brother. Hi, Ronald. I just wanted to sort of engage with you for a second. We have time, but I wanted to engage with you. You come from a similar religious space as I do, coming from a more evangelical world, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I guess, as somebody who is used to being in spaces where people support the death penalty and being used to being, having lived in Alabama for a pretty good chunk of my life myself, when you share like Jeffery Lee's situation, and you share like, hey, this is a judicial override, this is that, how have people responded? Have people responded differently to Jeffery Lee's story as opposed to a lot of the other stories?
Oh, that's a good question. I find each time the conversations get easier, and as Esther has always taught me, I think Esther's still with us, is, you try to ask questions and meet people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
The good thing about, with this situation and with Sonny's is there's been a lot of information that has gotten out there through the good work of Gigi's group, and I don't know the name of that. Forgive me for not knowing the name of their group. Somebody on this call does. So I find that people are at least interested in it, and when there's interested and they find out something about it, there's conversations. And I have been surprised by people that I'd say, well, in my mind, I'm kind of thinking, well, they're not going to be open to this conversation. They probably feel a way about it, that they're not. They want to talk about it. And then they find out more, and I'm turning around and they're taking actions on it. They're calling the governor. They're signing the petition. They want to know more. And that's one thing that I find the death penalty does, is people are, for whatever reason, very curious about it. We can blow that off and say it's morbid. And maybe that's some of the macabre of it, but they're curious about it. I try to paint a little bit of, I try to put them on the trail and then let them go find their information, because I think that's the best way to go instead of trying to argue or discuss someone in it. and if they're curious enough, they'll find it and take action.
Mm-hmm.
What is confusing that I hear more and more from anyone and everyone, and Jeff, I know you can speak to this, is why, if we're known as a Bible Belt state, a Christian state, as Alabama is known, why do we have this? And I wish I could give a good answer. I don't know. I try to be very careful about mentioning names, but I know, I won't mention his name. I know our Attorney General goes to church. I have heard where he goes to church, and I can't for the life of me figure out why he and I have such a different view on this. And like not only a different view, but extreme passionate different view about it. That's the word, passionately different view about it. So that's the most surprising thing. And I think about a call. Rob just jumped off. But Rob made the comment last time, and I've never thought about it. This is not a United States thing. It's a really Confederate States of America thing where the execution is left.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at not telling you anything you don't know, but if you look at the top 10 states on the FBI stats for murder rates, 7 of them have capital punishment,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them are located in the South. And I just can't square that up. I don't know where we're called to love everybody, Jeff. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't square up where so many believers appear, or at least when they're in groups, to support this. And I wish I had a lady ask me tonight at the Vigil. I'm right around the corner from the governor's mansion here. She said, "How come we don't have more pastors out here?" And I said, "That's a very good question. I would like to figure it out."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question, but
No, I think
there you go.
you did great. I mean, we've got some time to kind of go off on some tangents a little bit tonight, but I just wanted to or perhaps to get more detailed on some of our thoughts or whatever. But I wanted to speak to one of the reasons why I think Christianity, or as a religion, now we all know that there's a difference between following Jesus and being religious. That one is about adhering to law and doctrine and all these things. The other is about having an actual relationship with Jesus. With that said, I think that one of the things that has been very problematic since the founding of our country is, especially with the Puritans, there's this been constant talk of the atonement, this idea that blood is required for sin, this constant, almost like Dracula, this constant desire for blood when things go wrong, or when people do wrong things. Now, of course, the crazy thing about that is, especially for more conservative, more Orthodox Christians, I mean, the belief is that Jesus did all of that. Therefore, what's the need to keep on taking all of this blood? But I do think that's where for Christians, a lot of the confusion comes from, and it comes from bad theology. And this is one of the reasons why I think theology is so important. That Esther Brown, she has a master's degree in religious studies. And she's spent a lot of time studying this stuff.
But I would say racism falls right into that. We have black and we have white, we have good and we have bad. It's a sort of simplistic way of thinking. And when you have to be the chosen people, I'm chosen, you're not, that to me already, if love were the religion, but that's not what it is.
Yeah, I think that's...
And the death penalty goes with that. Okay, finish him off, done, finished,
I do think, Esther, that as you were saying,
enough. It's just not thinking enough.
I think it all goes together. This whole, like, I'm in, you're out, I'm saved, you're not, Jesus loves me, but he doesn't love you.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, when we create all of these borders and boundaries, there's a queer theorist by the name of Gloria Anzaldúa. And she was Chicana, very interesting person who lived in Arizona, but she developed what is called borderlands theory. And borderlands theory is about this idea that we can't transform or we can't get beyond our problems until we're prepared to go to the borders and meet each other. We can't transcend our borders until we go to the borders. And again, this is that sort of speaking about the, idea of the monster. We're going to lock up these monsters. We're going to pull these monsters out of society so that they can't hurt anybody else. But the problem with that, Esther and Ronald, I mean, we've met these folks. I mean, like, like things change when you meet someone face to face. Things change when a conversation begins to happen. But I will also tell you that I've met some, in the years I've done all this work, and maybe Esther, you would say this too, but I've met some scary people. I mean, and but it's a very small minority of what exists on death row. But the problem is, again, I think our society takes the worst of the worst, which sometimes does exist, and sometimes that person never needs to be out of a prison ever again, in my opinion. But they say this person that killed 40 people, well, that's everybody. And we know that's not reality. I mean, we know that you've got a situation with Sonny Burton, did not kill anyone. It's very possible that Anthony Boyd did not kill anyone. And so I guess what I'm getting at is the death penalty, in my opinion, is not about crime. It's about fear. And it's about our fear. And we've got to do something so that we won't be afraid. We've got to lock all these people up and we've got to say how bad they are so that we won't be afraid. It's ridiculous. It's not logical. It doesn't make sense, which is why we keep getting cases like Jeffrey Lee where, it fundamentally doesn't make sense. The case doesn't make sense. But and I think that this is an outgrowth of Christianity and this idea that there's always got to be a devil. There's always got to be demons. There's always got
blame somebody.
We always have to blame somebody else. Esther, I think it was Esther, but the other day she sent me a little cartoon that said if something goes right, then God has blessed me. If something goes wrong, then the devil did it. And it sort of speaks to this whole idea of the way that we perceive life and reality is screwed up. Like instead of trying to figure out how do we love other people, we're trying to figure out how to make ourselves better or differentiated between other people. Last thing I'll say, and I won't keep bantering on, but Thomas Merton, one of the great Catholic spiritualist writers, 1960s, he has this incredible essay entitled "The Root of War is Fear." And he basically says that all global conflict, localized conflict, crime, all of these things are based on our fear of ourselves and each other. And he says that the modern man walks around with a gun in his hand, and the only question is whether he's going to shoot himself or someone else first. And I think that that's how we often live our lives is we're trying not to destroy ourselves, so we're going to destroy everybody else in the process. But what you've learned, Ronald, and I think your testimony and, hearing the guys down there talk about you, is that, you've, instead of shooting other people or othering other people or pushing people aside, you've made yourself whole by being with the folks who have been cast aside. And to me, that's how our society changes. And I think that if we have any ability to effectuate change, just like Ronald, you were saying a second ago, just like Esther, how you live your life, it is that we take these relationships and we take these guys and we introduce them to the public. Maybe the public can't always talk to these guys. Maybe everybody can't have the pen pal relationship, telephones, calls, and all that kind of stuff. But perhaps in us talking about the humanity of these people, of these guys and gals, we are making ourselves more human in the process. And we're making our world more human, more humane in the process.
I'm afraid of the others. I'm afraid of the ones,
You're afraid of the ones who are not on death row. Is that what you're saying?
I do. Yeah, some of those walking around, absolutely.
Right.
But I do think it does, I mean, it's been a problem. As Jean-Paul Sartre said, hell is the other. And it sort of goes back to the need to survival, our most basic need. And so we are threatened. We are afraid. And I think that's what you said. And somebody who doesn't look like me. And I think you will find it, especially in racist states, and certainly Alabama. It's one racist state.
Right.
It all goes together. We put this in this box and this in that box.
Right.
That's how it goes.
Right. Hey, Abe, real quick before you go, I'm not cutting you off, but before you go, Ronald, I wanted to give you a chance. Ronald, I wanted to give you a chance to respond real quick.
Well, I've got a few things. One is, it's a very nuanced conversation, but safety, what we're talking about is safety, but that's an illusion. Let's just say there is a way to get everyone with bad intentions. We come up with this new AI technology, and we can get everyone with bad intentions off the street tomorrow. Okay, so we do that. But I still live in Alabama, which is the southern version of the Tornado Alley. I am not necessarily safe now because tomorrow a tornado can come down my street and drop a tree through my house and kill me. Or this wonderful food that I eat can load me up with toxins and I can catch a disease that's pretty much only common to the U.S. We have so many forms of cancer, and I know I'm on a tangent here, that are just exclusive to the U.S. based on our diet and our nutrition. So what is safety? And then when you start thinking in that sense, we start looking for a hero. We need a savior. We need someone that can protect us and save us. And that's where the politicians get the edge on it. Like, you need me to be tough on crime. You need me to protect you.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, there's no way to 100% protect us. It's just
that's good.
not a reality. It's an illusion. And the last thing I'll say, I think that was my second point, is, the church in the South, the Protestant church in the South, we've always been behind what we'll call these social justice issues. And I'll just say this, and I know Esther will agree with it. Jeff, I know you will too. There were a lot of people in the churches back in the 60s that were taking up the collection plates on Sunday, and in Saturday night they were in sheets. And you know what I mean? So we've always been a little bit behind on things. But again, let me just say, they felt like they were protecting the neighborhood. What was the neighborhood? It was the white people. And this is just another version of that. It's just another version of that safety complex. And I need a hero, and I need someone to protect me. But yeah, that's my closing thoughts on that.
No, thank you, Ronald. Well, speaking of protection, let's go to Father Abraham for protection now.
Not sure how much protection I can offer. I'm on the outside of this fence here and not on the inside. But I think that when it comes down to it, we talk about the sheets. We got people here, they got to pick up their sheets at the cleaners. And that's how they're acting. They're killing because they can't. That's really a big, when people ask why do we have to do this? It's because we can't, because we made this promise to society that we're going to do this to this particular person. I'm no theologian, and I'm certainly no what did you call me, Jeff? Father Abraham. Actually, in Copapile, El Salvador, I'm known as Padre Abraham, and that's another story from.
And now you're frozen.
We lost you.
That's funny. Hey, you're frozen, man.
I just texted him.
Wake up. He's tired. He's had a long day.
Okay, no. You're back for like half a second.
Well, it's not getting any better. He's gone off my screen.
Yeah, he's gone off mine too. Esther, real quick before before Abe comes back, I did want to ask you, as you engage these guys, you've engaged them all through the years, and I know that you are not in the same sphere as a lot of these guys are religiously. Sometimes you think differently and whatnot. When you engage, that level of religiosity, spirituality, or at least for me, and I just want to see if this is true for you too. Like when I hear Jeffery Lee talking, I don't know that we have the same beliefs, or I don't know. I don't know anything about him. I mean, in terms of on a personal level like that. And when I see my Muslim folks come through and I hear them profess their faith, I think it would be easy to say, oh, that's just jailhouse religion. That's just not real. But to me, I find a lot of encouragement from it. And maybe it's not the same thing that I believe, but it does feel encouraging. It does bring life. And I was just curious. Yeah, I was curious what your thoughts were, your experiences.
Well, I don't have the need to convert anybody. Okay. And again, as I said before, you go where the other is. And when I see that that it's very helpful for them, I wouldn't touch that. I wouldn't, then there's some people who think more like that, like I do, like our friend Jeff. But, I think it is respect. And if I see that it's really good for them, I'm glad. We don't all like the same food either. Mm-hmm. We can still be friends. Mm-hmm. This is the thing of this need to convert. I don't have that. What I think what's best, we all share one thing, and that is love. Mm. And that right. To me is sort of the main thing. Right. Love. I love them. They love me. Everybody loves differently, and that's absolutely fine. But why do people have to think what I do? We each. That's one of the big things that I always say to everybody. We're all unique, and when right. You say, "I know exactly how you feel," that is not true. It's impossible. Because right. You don't have my genes, you don't have my history, you don't, whatever it all is, we can try to understand how you feel, but I can't say that I know exactly how you feel. Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't, if I see it's good for you, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Jewish, whether a Buddhist, that's good. It's good. I mean, when you love people, you want good things for them, right? Right, you want them to feel safe or at home, or and there are things that we do share that we work on a lot, is to find the little joys, Right. We always talk in the morning. Why are they hiding? Go and find them, Right. Right. I don't feel, and you see, as far as God goes, I think people make God in their own image and likeness. If it's a God, he's a whole lot bigger, and he doesn't have favorites. He doesn't, not this one more than that one. And you mentioned before about some of the people on death row, being dangerous. And yes, I knew Ted Bundy quite well. Was friends with his wife. People are sick. Mm-hmm. That's the other problem, that we haven't come up to date and understand that some people are sick, whether they're sick with TB or whether they're sick with, psychiatric. All right, they shouldn't be let free, and that's what we said at the time. I later husband and I, they didn't have to kill him. That was Ted Bundy. Not that we liked him particularly, although I still have letters from him, but they didn't have to kill him. They could have put him in a psychiatric place, you know. He actually didn't do anything while I was on death row. I knew him for quite a while. You know, he was very conceited. He'd come out and go like this and think everybody was looking at him. Nobody was giving a darn about him. But okay, he was ill. And there are so many psychiatric people running around, but of course we don't even have health care for everybody. So then we're surprised when things happen. No, it's our fault. I think that's what we have to say. It's our fault.
Right.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Esther. Abe, Father
back.
Abraham.
I'm back. I don't remember what I was saying when I got cut off, but what a rigmarole. Anyway, I did want to just say that you know there's danger everywhere. We could be safe without executions. I'm not a theologian, but I'm enjoying this conversation and especially appreciating, Jeff, you're lifting up Ronald and his work that he's doing in the prisons and bringing to the outside, Esther's work. And I did not know that Esther had a master's in theology. Is that right? What it is? But
man, she's smart. She's smart in every direction. I'm telling you.
Well, we knew that for sure. You know, you're looking at a guy with with an associate's degree in photographic technology. That's actually what I went to school for, and a little bit of geology at Ohio State University too. But and so kind of finding it here.
Oh, you're frozen again.
Here we go again.
Why does that happen?
It's because he said Ohio State.
He's tired.
He is tired.
I know the connection's been really choppy at the governor's mansion. Well, until he comes back.
Allie, really quick. Ronald, are you about to start heading down the road? I didn't want you to feel like you had to stay if you needed to go.
No, I'm good for the moment. I'm going to wait probably 30 minutes longer and see what we're thinking, what happens.
Okay, all right.
So yeah,
cool.
I can actually walk back around the corner and tell Abe he's stuck again. But Allie, there he is. He's back.
I don't know.
On
what's
occasion,
going on.
I try to be thoughtful.
I think Governor Ivey is in there toggling something to interfere with the internet here. But actually, we are still holding vigil here. We've got a couple of people from the lawyer's office, and Suzanne Boswell is here from Journey of Hope from Violence to Healing. Earlier, if you were on earlier, you saw the interns from the ACLU and others from the Federal Defender Office. And, you know, there's and also the Alabama resistors have been here. That's a whole other group, and various people of various faiths that come and go, and we're getting plenty of people driving by and giving us honks. It's a pretty quiet neighborhood, as you can see. But the fun thing, I will say, driving down this road, there's several houses that have Save Jeffery Lee signs in their yards. When we were here on Monday for the petition delivery, and then Suzanne and I flew to Los Angeles to be present for the ceremony, the celebration of life for Magdalena Rose Avila, and we left our trailer here, and it was parked basically in the front yard of a person that lives just down the street, and well, in her driveway, but visible to everybody, and she laughed about how visible our trailer is. I don't know if you can see it down the street there, but it's basically a big rolling billboard in this neighborhood, and that's the point. It's just, and I gave an interview to one of the TV stations a while ago, just talking about how we're standing for all the people that won't come out or can't come out or don't know to come out. But there's a lot of opposition to the death penalty, and our job here is simply to be representative of that as we stand vigil and wait. So I don't have much to add to the theology of the conversation, except to say that there's probably something in there about standing up and speaking out for what's right, and doing that consistently. I'm grateful to be empowered to do that on everybody's behalf.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Abe.
I did want to jump back in to what Esther was saying a moment ago. Esther was talking about the mental health crisis and just the healthcare crisis more generally in this country. And this is something that I shared on some of the live streams that we did, like on TikTok and Instagram leading up to this. And so I was the victim of crime a couple of times over the last few years, and certainly it was nothing like this, but I still had to think about like how I felt towards the people who did it, if they got caught, like all the things. And I mean, my background in anthropology like really makes me understand that things don't happen in a vacuum, but I had to translate my academic understandings and knowledge to like actually how it feels in practice. And I mean, I kept walking away with like, this is on all of us. This is not just the sole responsibility of the person who actually did the crime. It's our fault for treating people or like this whole rugged individualism thing in the United States treats everybody like they're completely independent, that they're in vacuums, that like nothing socially like will interfere and will like I mean how am I saying this? Crime doesn't happen in a vacuum. It is the result of all kinds of processes happening around you, mental health issues, poverty, and we know that crime thrives when people do not have what they need for survival. And if we just took care of each other, and not just with mental health care, but if we actually made sure that everybody had what they needed to live and be comfortable, I mean, we wouldn't be in this predicament. And because we are so obsessed with placing the blame on individuals instead of on our whole society, we're at where we're at now. And I mean, this is not going to stop until we start treating this on a society level and not on an individual level. But I also, when Esther was talking about mental health, and I know that there was a component of that in this case, something that I think is really important to mention, and I mentioned it in some of the lives, is the issue of the traumatic brain injury. I feel like that's kind of gotten lost a little bit in the discussions around Jeffrey. And there was for a number of years an individual who was very close to our family that was a survivor of attempted murder. The guy shouldn't have survived. His friends took him out into the forest in the middle of the night and tried to kill him with an axe. And he was 19 years old, and now 30, 40 years later, I mean, it still very much impacts him. Not only did he have to go through just like the physical recovery of something like that, that is typically unsurvivable, but just the way that TBIs impact everything about how you function. They impact your emotion, like your emotional response to things. They impact your decision making. They impact so many components of how people walk through the world. And even independent of the trauma and that kind of mental health issue in this case, just the TBI alone should have been more than enough to warrant relief for Jeffrey, independent of anything else. So I just wanted to bring that up.
And when he came to death row, he got treated for it, you know, which is interesting.
But like a TBI is not like a one and
yes,
done.
he's on some medication, okay? Because he was hearing voices and all kinds of things. But to go back to what you said, I absolutely agree. It's always the question behind the question. That's what I call it. Things don't happen just by themselves. That's not even interesting. Well, it's interesting, but what happened before, what happened before, what happened before? And then the other thing are the drugs. And there again, when they came to the neighborhood, nobody cared. When they came to the suburbs, it was too late. Yeah. I worked in that field, and that's what we used to say, but of course. Yeah. And where are we? So we are responsible. It is our fault.
Yeah. I mean, we're all culpable. in situations like this, and it just like hurts my heart and just enrages me that people don't see it as the consequence of so many overlapping things happening simultaneously. And I mean, I don't know how much more can be said about that. It's just incredibly frustrating.
And racism, most white people can't even begin to understand that, as I guess many of you know, my late second husband was African American. And you had to step off the sidewalk for the white people. You went to an all-black school and had the hand-me-down books from the white people with the white names in it. And whenever you went to anywhere, you weren't sure. People said something, no, we have no idea. And that is awful. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, right, Jeff Hood? Except you don't do Latin. No, it's just we have to go where the other is, and love is the answer. That's the only thing I could say. And we don't have to agree on everything, but love happens to be the answer.
Yeah.
Ronald, I had a question for you while we're sort of kicking it around.
Okay.
When you think about, I mean, I know where you go to church. You don't have to tell everybody where you go to church or anything like that. But my question is, when you go to these spaces where, people, it's very clear that people love God and for that matter, love each other and are trying to do the right thing. And, but they've been told wrongly what the right thing is. Maybe that's a good way of saying it. They've been convinced that something is in the Bible that isn't necessarily in the Bible, or something is righteous that isn't necessarily righteous. And I know that, like, growing up, they used to tell us, share the gospel wherever you go, and when necessary, use words or something like that. And I guess what I'm just sort of getting at is, in the spaces that you're in, do people come up and like ask you about the death penalty? Like, how often do these kinds of conversations happen? And do they happen organically, or do you have to like be very intentional about them?
They don't happen enough. I would say they happen organically. I won't say I prefer not to bring it up, but I may suggest something and kind of see how it's received.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about what you said about the Bible. If the Bible told us, I'm not sure that you'll agree this is good theology, and clearly I'm not a theologian. If the Bible told us everything we needed to know about God, we wouldn't have to have a relationship with Him through the Spirit. There is that component, and that's where my faith has led me on this death penalty journey. Just really quickly is, when I was weighing it out and praying about it and thinking about it and hashing it out, is I had to realize that and you'll see with this eyes going in a minute, I was too flawed of a human being to decide, okay, this person should be killed for what they did. This person should not. Yes, what you did was horrible enough to warrant with that. Yours wasn't. We are created. We are created in the image of our Father, and I promise I won't do a sermon here. But the fact that we are created, and that we're also the sons of Adam and Eve, right? Where sin entered the world. I think God only holds that distinction of being able to decide who lives and dies, and it's not up to us because we're flawed. For instance, I'll tell a quick story. And this is a true story. I knew the person it happened to. There was a guy one time that had went to serve at what we'll basically call a food rescue mission, that rescued food and gave it to the poor. Mm-hmm. He left there one day and was on an interstate in Birmingham, got cut off in traffic and flipped off. He was flipped off, the bird, in other words. I won't do it. He chased that guy down and got out on the side of the road on Highway 31 in Hoover and had words with this person and was standing there saying some not so nice things while he still had his surf shirt on from that organization.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my question to this audience is, who was that guy? Was he the person that was serving the homeless earlier? Or was he the person that was cussing somebody out on the side of the interstate?
Mm. Yeah, that's good.
He's both.
Yeah, that's good.
He's both. And we're all in need of grace.
Mm-hmm.
We all have to lean on grace one day, sooner or later. Even if you don't believe in God, you understand what grace is. And you'll need to lean on that from another human being one day.
Mm-hmm.
My answer to that question is he's both of those people, and I knew who it was because it was me.
Mm-hmm.
And a few wrong moves there. Let's just say that gentleman had a gun and he pulled a gun on me, and I shot him back. I took his gun and I shot him. Where might I be today?
Right.
Might I be at Atmore?
Mm-hmm.
Might I be on a life sentence or a death sentence? So it was in things like that and reflecting on my life and knowing the things I did and knowing who I am and what I'm capable of. I am too flawed to decide who should live and who should die. And by the way, I think that's happened to be true for any of us.
Of course. Yeah, I think so too. I love the idea of that. I mean, as you told the story and obviously telling it about yourself, but I love the idea that we are all capable of tremendous good and we're all capable of tremendous evil. And we've done both in our lives. I mean, you know, some of the things that if you really break it down, I was thinking about this yesterday. You know, a lot of these guys I work with, you know, Sonny Burton is a great example of, you know, somebody who was doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing, but did not intend to kill someone. Whereas all of us are sitting here paying our taxes and we're watching bombs rain down in Iran that we have no connection to. We have no, like, we're not seeing it. I mean, you know, it hasn't been a couple months ago, we blew up a girls' school in Iran, 150 children murdered. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that it seems like all of us like our evil to be something that we can easily disguise. And we don't want to actually mine deeper to realize that we really are all, you know, connected with each other, and that what makes me righteous and what makes
Jeff,
me evil.
You might want to check the docket. Just can you check it real quick? I'm seeing something. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your thought there, but
No, it's okay. No, I don't see anything. It's okay. You can tell me. Let's see. Let's see. No, I'm not seeing anything on Twitter. Not seeing anything on the docket. I will say that there have been some tricky headlines on Twitter because I've pulled up stuff on Twitter and it'll say something like U.S. Supreme Court to allow Thursday's block nitrogen gas execution. And I think, oh, shit. And then I see in very small print, Alabama asked U.S. Supreme Court to allow Thursday nitrogen execution. Anyways, so yeah, I've had a couple of those types of moments where my stomach drops. But
So this goes on until 6 o'clock in the morning, right?
yeah, I mean it's
Theoretically.
this could go on until 6 a.m. And I guess until me and Allie have our morning coffee together.
Maybe Sotomayor will write so long that it'll take her until 6 a.m. to finish her dissent.
Our longest vigils have been Alabama vigils.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Abe, are you hearing any information there? Any updates or anything like that?
Well, the updates is, the lawyers are getting ready to bring us some food. So we're all hunkering in for, who knows how long night. And yeah, it could go overnight. I will say again, what's that?
Good.
What's that?
One.
Up, we got news. We won. What's the deal? Hold on, let me see what's going on. Spotlight me.
You are spotlighted.
There's nothing
What do
on
we
the
know?
docket.
About it.
So they denied the application.
They denied the application, so no
News. Good news.
no execution
No
tonight.
execution tonight.
No
But
execution.
Oh my God.
So that's Donna Venable, who's with the federal
So
defender.
what will happen now?
Now they
What's
have to
that?
figure out another method to kill him with and start this process over again.
Right.
That's right.
It would see, yes, it would seem so. They have to start from scratch with this process with another method, right?
Yes, so it's definitely because I want to text the guys. Yeah.
I don't really know. It's very
We don't.
confusing.
We're confused. All we know, we're
Yes, I think it's confusing though what method it would be.
but we're solid that there's no execution.
There's
tonight.
nothing, Abe. There's
Right?
nothing. There's nothing on the docket.
That's right. They haven't gotten around to posting it, but the lawyers for this guy, for Jeffery Lee, the lawyers have just,
All right.
we've got one of them sitting right here, and they say that the motion has been denied, which for us is a win.
Okay, I'm gonna text the guys.
We don't get a win too often around here.
Oh my God, I really doubted it. And I mean, I understand that this win
Hey,
is like a partial
Hey, Allie, I'm gonna
Well,
jump
that's
off.
what J Love said.
I'm
God
gonna
is not
jump.
done. That's what he told me when he got the date. And he
Allie,
said
I'm
that
gonna
right
jump.
also.
Allie, I need to go.
Yes, I know.
He
All
was
right.
right. Okay.
So Jeff is gonna go and give a press conference.
Oh
do you
yeah,
want-
yes, and I actually here's from my we won. And I just got a text from Bart Johnson. He's the chairman of Project Hope. I mean, he's of course on death row, and he wrote, "We won." Okay.
That's huge.
That's massive.
Judge
Thomas, Alito, and Grosh would have granted the application.
Hold on.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. They just
So Robert
Okay.
voted.
You've all been
Hold
wonderful,
on.
and we
Wait,
really
we're
do
getting
appreciate
an
you. I
update
want to
here.
say that on behalf of all of us. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Abe. Thank you, Ronald. And Jeff, wherever you
Hold on.
are.
Esther, Allie, spotlight me for a moment. Okay, we on?
Sorry, did you say something?
Yes. Can you hear me?
No, again, tell me.
Okay, so what do we have?
Donna's
I'm
reading
sorry.
it.
Donna's reading it.
I'm not reading it.
Oh,
So the
very small.
application for stay or vacatur presented to Justice Thomas and by him referred to the court is denied. Justice Thomas, Justice Alito, and Justice Gorsuch would grant the application for stay or vacatur. So
Okay, so it's a 6-3 ruling, and that's solid. All right, good night, everybody from Governor's Mansion here in Montgomery, Alabama. We're driving home.
Thank you all for being with us tonight, and thank God it turned out this way. I did want to let you guys know that Jeff Hood is having a press conference on the Execution Interventions Facebook page. If you want to tune into that, just go find his Facebook page. But we're closing this out. I mean, this doesn't happen often, but I'm just grateful for what happened tonight, and that at least for now the execution is off, and Jeffrey gets to live another day and impact the people around him in wonderful ways. So thank you all so much for everything you've done, all the calls, all the posts, all the everything. Yeah, I'm grateful. Esther, did you want to say anything? Oh, Esther, hold on. Let me. I don't think so. Ronald, did you have anything that you wanted to share?
Thank you, God. No, I didn't. Just a great moment. My phone had overheated when I was talking to Jeff, so I got out of the vehicle and ran down here to talk to Abe and see what the lawyers were hearing because I was starting to hear things. Just it's a great day, but for everybody that's still on the call, it's not over. Our best course of action is clemency through the governor's office. So please don't let this fall off your radar. Continue to call the governor's office, and let's move for that commutation of sentence to give him life without, which is what the jury intended to be. We should have never been at this point, and we don't have to be. So let's continue to take action. And thank you, Death Penalty Action, for everything you do.
Thank you, Ronald, for everything you do and for being with us all evening. And Esther,
Thank you. Thank you to everybody from all of us. Thank you.
Alrighty, folks. Have a good night. It is going to be a better night indeed, and hopefully we don't have to see you in a few weeks, but this was good. This was needed. This week has just been extremely heavy, and I know we were all feeling it. So we get to go into the weekend with a little breath of relief.